Hey guys, how's it going? Superfly Kev here, and welcome back to the Super Podcast. Now I did this like almost a month ago, and I did it with my friend Carlos. But the problem is that dude bailed. Dude basically said that I got better things to do. I'm just kidding. But he's actually part of another podcast that they talk about One Piece and anime, and he's so busy with that one he couldn't do two of them at the same time, and then juggle his personal life. So at that point, he respectfully said that I can't do this anymore, and I said, "All right, dude. If you ever want to come back, you're more than welcome." So you might see him back again. It's not guaranteed he might come back, but he can come back as a guest. So instead, hopefully this is the permanent cast if they want to continue doing this. So I got Drebin over here, on my side. Say hello, Drebin.
Hey, I'm Drebin. What's up?
All right, so Drebin is actually a YouTuber like me, but he plays more of tactical shooters. So if you're more of a fan of stuff like Rainbow Six, Ready or Not, Arma, I'll put his link down to his page in the description. Check him out. Boy needs some love. Stop
Appreciate you.
by. We actually might be starting a series soon. I just got to get the game to work. So
Yeah, I also think I know why it wasn't working.
Yeah, I think I
Uh,
got the port numbers wrong. That's exactly what it was. I got the port numbers wrong, and I had to reset the ports. But we'll fix it.
all right, cool.
We'll test it out later. But I think I figured it out. We just have to test it out and see if it works. If not, then going back to the drawing board and see how this fucking game we can get this game to work. But anyways, and then in the bottom over here, the person who is too afraid to be on camera. His voice likes to show up. He likes to talk all the time. But when it comes to his physical appearance, he only sends me photos of himself. Anyways, this Spectre, you guys might know him as the guy that's just the guy who's randomly in my thumbnails whenever I play like Dead Space 3. Yeah, it's that dude down there. He's one of my
Yes.
moderators. He's a good friend of mine. So I dragged him over here. He didn't want to be here, but I told him that if he doesn't, then I won't let his family go.
That's fucked. That's fucked, dude.
But
Let him
anyways,
go, damn it! Let him go.
no, the podcast has to end first, and then his family returns
Oh,
safely.
Mom!
Actually, your mom's loving it here. She's like, "Damn, a vacation for my child. Damn, this is a treat." She has she has
nice.
she has her feet up the couch and everything, dude. Fuck, pretending like this her
No.
damn house. But anyways,
So,
so pretty much this podcast we're gonna take the time to introduce ourselves. I did a little bit of that with well, his name was Buggy the Clown. That was his handle, which is pretty much Carlos. That's a One Piece character. So pretty much we're gonna introduce ourselves and basically well, I mean we already introduced ourselves, but we're really gonna introduce ourselves, meaning that when it comes to gaming, we're going to basically talk about exactly where we started and where we're at now. Because this is a gaming podcast, so you guys are interested in video games. So when my gaming journey started, I might have been like maybe 3 or 4 years old. The first thing I remember ever playing was something like Mario, on the NES, obviously. Don't remember which one. It was probably the original, and then I do remember playing things like on the Super Nintendo, like Donkey Kong Country was one of my favorites. The first 3D game I ever saw was not a PlayStation or N64 title. It was actually Star Fox on the NES, SNES. Have you guys ever played Star Fox on the Super Nintendo?
yeah, yeah, I played one of them with it was the co-op one
The co-op one. I
on
think
GameCube, I think.
GameCube had some co-op. I think the N64 one. I don't remember if it had co-op. I know it had competitive, like
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, competitive
Yeah, that
because
was
it had
all.
like a
Yeah, the N64 was all about that, man. Every single game had like a competitive fucking mode. Why? You had four controller ports in the damn thing. Go fucking crazy. You got three
right.
friends. I sure don't. Yeah,
I
yeah.
was my family was only able to ever like give me hand-me-down systems.
I see. But I mean, I remember that era. I mean, I remember popping in fucking Star Fox on the Super Nintendo, and it was very, very primitive 3D. Like you can see the triangles that made the up the wings of the ship. Like that's how primitive it was. I might play it on the channel sometime. It was one of my favorite Super Nintendo games. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
and then next thing you know, I do remember the first time I was ever like, I mean, don't get me wrong, Star Fox on the Super Nintendo, like it piqued my interest as a child. I'm like, ooh, the characters are blocky now instead of being like, pixelated. It wasn't until one day I went to a Best Buy with my mom. It was during the holidays. Back then the N64 was known as the Ultra 64. That's what it was in all the preview magazines. The Ultra 64 is coming. And then somewhere down the line, they dropped the word Ultra and they just called it the N64, which sounds better. It rolls off the tongue better than Ultra 64. Even though Ultra 64 in the commercials would have sound badass. Play Mario 64 on the Ultra 64. Are you Ultra or are you stupid? I don't know. It's the 90s, The 90s were brutal. If you go back and you look up fucking like advertising back in the 90s, they were brutal. You had like Sega basically with like the Sega, Sega does what Nintendo don't. And then, the Sony PlayStation commercials, I remember that it was basically like they used to have Crash Bandicoot outside Nintendo headquarters with a megaphone, and he was just talking shit. He was like basically like, yo, bring the red plumber out. What the hell? And he was like, yo, are we gonna do this? Like if he was like picking a fight with like Mario, telling him like bring his ass outside so I can kick his ass. Yeah. Yeah, like the like 90s adverts for the gaming, they were fucking brutal. Like they didn't give a shit. Like you had a competitor and be like, you want to play as a game like of a guy who calls himself a Duke? Why don't you play as a king? And then, they'll introduce a character that's better than Duke Nukem or something. Or they believe is better than Duke Nukem. And that would be like
False advertising.
and that would be like that would be the advertisement. Why settle for a Duke when you can play as a king or some bullshit like that? Yeah, and then you're a kid in the 90s, you open up a magazine like Game Pro. Oh, and also like gaming adverts were also raunchy. So, sometimes they'll either have like, they'll have like the standard like girl in a bikini or something. You'll be like a 14-year-old kid and be like, oh, wow, a sexy lady. This game must be,
Oh God.
this game must be fucking awesome. There's like a bikini babe in the fucking advert. And then if it wasn't a bikini babe, dude, they'll have some like gross shit on there. Like, I don't know, there was like some weird fucking like 90s ads. Like, do you remember like back in like in the 90s, like I'm sure you guys know this. I mean, I Spectre wasn't alive for it, but Drebin was the There's Your Brain anti-drug commercials.
Yes, but only after the fact because I didn't actually watch TV until I was about 6 or 7.
I see. Yeah, no, I had Disney. I didn't watch TV. But I remember like sometimes so I watched cable television, and I just
Yeah, we didn't
remember
have cable.
it wasn't really when I say cable television, I mean like local cable, like
Right,
like
yeah.
you have a TV and you plug in the fucking coax table, you turn it on, it's like holy shit, 3 channels. Yeah.
That's literally I had this tiny ass
A whopping
CRT
3.
TV.
Yep.
I had this tiny ass CRT TV, and before like was it like Optimum cable, like that's local to the tri-state, but before that we had like the default channels. I don't remember which one was Cartoon Network or whatever the fuck, but I remember when Optimum came along, it was 32 for a long time, and then they changed it, and I was pissed.
Yeah, well, my local channels, there was more than 3. There was like 3 Hispanic channels because I grew up in Miami. So we had like Telemundo, Univision, all those fucking channels.
Oh,
Like,
so you had the Pepsi commercials where it was the stripper coming out to the camera, and then she was like,
dude,
Pepsi.
when I was a kid, dude, I mean, I was always used to seeing like women barely wearing anything because
Right.
I'm not talking about porn or anything, but when
No,
you're,
just the beaches.
yeah,
I know.
when you're like watching like even like Hispanic like they can be having a talk show, and then out of nowhere like the guy will like basically like he'll start like clapping his hands or something, and then you'll see like a bunch of people like, I mean, these are Mexican even though I'm not Mexican, I'm Cuban. These are Mexican networks that are running this. So you'll see like the mariachi band come out,
Ah,
with the
yes.
trumpets, and the next thing you know, you'll have like 4 of the most beautiful women come out of nowhere wearing nothing but like basically a bikini and like booty shorts, and they start dancing, and you're like, and they were just talking about the weather like 5 minutes ago, and now this shit's happening. Yeah.
It's like one of those joke fucking game shows like from Japan. I used to watch on G4 back when it was actually good.
Yeah, we can talk about G4 in a minute. This is a podcast. We can definitely talk about
Because
G4.
that's definitely that's part of my my whole timeline
All
for
right.
sure.
Yeah, so all right, so Super Nintendo. So we went to Best Buy. So the first time I saw anything 3D like that blew me the fuck away, that I was like, Mom, we need to upgrade like yesterday. Um but because I was still rocking a Super Nintendo, I was still rocking the 16 bits, and now we're 32-bit. It's just knocked on the corner and just slapped me in the face. So the first game I saw that had basically fully polygonal characters, or whatever you want to call it, was fucking Mario 64. I saw it on a Best Buy kiosk, and there was like a huge ass line to basically like even just touch the fucking controller, like not even play, just to touch the controller, for like 2 seconds. Those kids were like, yo, my turn. Hey, it was me. And then have like another fucking big kid like just grab a kid out of nowhere and just fucking like yeet him. Oh
My
crap.
turn.
I lifted my hand and I had my camera on auto frame just in case I get out of the way, and there we go. I needed to center myself.
Cool.
There we go.
Yeah, look, he's sliding.
Whoa!
That's cool.
All
You
right.
had a good enough camera for that.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's not a camera. It's a software. I'm using the video broadcast.
Okay.
I use the video broadcast. All you need to have is a NVIDIA. If you have a NVIDIA GPU, you can no, you have an AMD.
No, I have 1070. I don't have. They need the 20
Yeah, you need a
series and
20
above.
series. Yeah, you need a 20 series to use
I hate myself
the
sometimes.
NVIDIA broadcast. But yeah, it has a lot of cool things. That background right there, yeah. Oh, cool. I'm trying to fix myself. I'm trying to get myself better like centered, but because now I'm like a little bit to the left or something.
Uh,
All right.
Slide to the
There we
left.
go. There we go. I got back to my original position.
All right.
Nice. But anyways, but yeah, I remember just seeing Mario's dumb face. Like when you start, if you ever started Mario 64, his face comes out of the camera and starts like going closer, but like, here we go. As a kid, I literally thought that was the entire game. I literally thought that the
Because
entire
you
game.
can play with the face.
You can play with the
I remember.
face. So I thought as a kid, I'm like, oh wow. I'm like, this is the game. I'm like, this is really awesome. It wasn't. It wasn't until I think a kid pressed the start button and then a menu appeared, for the save files and stuff like that. And then he pressed it again, and then I see Peach saying, Mario, I need a cake. I mean, I baked you a cake. Come over here. And then all of a sudden he jumps out of the pipe and he starts walking around. And I'm like, as a kid, I was like,
You're creaming.
yeah, because I'm like, holy shit, these are video games now. Because you only move from left to right, and now you can move in all 360 degrees and jump in the water, swim. You can jump into paintings, and the level loads up. Dude, that shit was fucking hype back in the day. Back in the day, you're like, oh fuck, Mario, dude. Nowadays, people are like, oh, he has a movie coming out. But back in the day, Mario was like, I mean, if you go back and you see like the Super Mario Brothers 3 commercial, it's one of the most iconic commercials because that's the one where everybody randomly just runs out their house and just start basically fist pumping in the air and just going Mario, Mario, Mario for no fucking reason. And then next thing you know, the camera zooms out away from the earth, and then all the people that are collectively basically chanting Mario, they make an image of Mario's like smiling face. It's one of the coolest gaming commercials, but for no, like I'm just gonna say, people just run out their house screaming Mario for no reason in that commercial. Yeah.
On commercials, can I just say one thing?
Sure.
There is a commercial you probably never saw on TV because it was for Xbox. This is for Xbox Live, the original Xbox Live. It was basically a mall, right? And then there were people with finger guns just go do, and like killing each other.
Oh, cringe.
It was so great, but it was like a fucking Nerf battle in a mall, but with finger guns.
Nice.
I only ever saw it because I like heard about it and I looked it up on the original YouTube. And oh my god, the ending is like this person goes up to this car and this guy's like on like a cell phone, like the old fucking piece of shit like flip phones.
Yeah.
And then he's like, hold on.
Excuse me, I gotta take this.
It was fucking So I was like, what the fuck? This was on TV?
Of course it was.
Because like at that time it was the Columbine shit. Like, oh, violent video games are bad.
You know, I'm gonna fast forward a bit. The most like what the fuck. The last time I saw like a video game commercial that had me going like what the fuck. Do you remember the baby PS3 commercial?
No, what's this?
I gotta show it to you. So pretty much when the PlayStation 3 first came out, I guess Sony didn't know how to advertise it. So one of the commercials
Oh
is
yeah.
is there's this white room. There's like nothing in the room except for a PlayStation 3 and a baby doll, like in diapers and stuff. You know,
Okay.
and all of a sudden the camera like it starts like playing. I mean the commercial starts playing like this eerie fucking music, and then the camera zooms in on the PS3 and it zooms in on the baby doll, and the baby doll comes to life and it's like doing like goo goo gaga type shit, and it goes and it zooms into the PS3 again, and then it zooms into the baby, and the baby starts doing some exorcist shit where his fucking head starts going all around, and then the baby
What the fuck?
and then the baby starts like crying blood and shit, and it's like wah wah, and it goes and zooms in the PS3, and next scene of the commercial's like PlayStation 3, just buy it.
Dude, what is this advertising?
Yeah, put up PS3 baby commercial.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm looking it up. Oh,
Yeah.
oh god, this already looks.
Yeah,
alright.
it's one of the weirdest commercials where you were like watching it and you're like, huh? I mean, it was the same. I mean,
Oh,
Sony's marketing department was weird that era, because you guys
No, it
remember.
didn't even have a diaper. It was like a full
Oh,
on.
I thought it had a
Just
diaper. It's been a while
no,
since I
I'm
seen that.
watching it now.
dude, it was $150 million campaign.
Do you guys remember the PSP commercials with the fucking squirrels?
What the fuck is this?
That's the PlayStation 3. That's the future. The cell processor lives. You know what, man? That console, I fucking hated that console. I know it has good games on it, but the console at itself was a big piece of shit. It was difficult to fucking program for. It. You know what's funny? To the point,
Found it.
Sony doesn't know. Sony doesn't even know how to fucking They don't even know how to emulate for that console, or they refuse to. You know, you go and you subscribe to the new PlayStation Gold Plus or whatever the fuck they called that. You know, the one that allows you to play classic games on their console. You gotta love the fact that they Nintendo and Sony locks their legacy titles on a subscription, whereas Microsoft just has it on the store and it's like, yeah, yo, you got $15, you can play Splinter Cell, the Xbox, original on the Xbox
Hey,
Series X.
you got a copy from a day one launch? Just plug that bitch in.
Yeah, just put it in your fucking disc tray, and then there you go. You can play fucking Rainbow Six 3. Yo, man, you got Halo Combat Edition? I mean, you can play the Master Chief Collection. Wait a minute. You got the original disc? Plug that shit in. Basically, that's Microsoft. Whereas Sony and Nintendo's like, yo, man, you want to play Crash Bandicoot, but not the HD version? You're gonna have to give us like $50 a year, and then you can play some Crash Bandicoot. You know? And it's like,
Don't.
fuck. I'm sure it's
Yeah.
more. I'm sure it's more than fit. Well, the thing is that they also have a tier system too. So it's like the cheaper you pay for it, like you get PlayStation 1 games. You give us a little bit more,
Right.
we'll throw PS2 at you. But you pay the premium, then we'll throw PS3 and PS4 at you. Wait, PS3 is cloud only because we don't know how to fucking emulate that console. They
I
don't.
want a PS3
So
emulator that
true.
works.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
Sony doesn't know how to emulate their own console, but yeah, you can play it on, like PS3 games on a
dudes,
PC.
both Sony and Nintendo are garbage at emulation. Like when Nintendo did their Nintendo Online Plus and they introduced, did you guys ever read about that? That
No.
when they introduced N64 games, like the first like 6 months of the service, the games were unplayable. Like you'll go load up like things like Wave Race or Star Fox 64 or even Super Mario 64. You'll be playing an N64 game, right? For 2 seconds it's 60 frames, and then out of nowhere that shit just drops all the way to 24, and you're like, what the
Well,
fuck? And not only that,
well,
like games like Ocarina of Time, it was mixing textures. So when you used to walk into like when the level used to load and you used to see where the water was, like the water was missing, or the water had like some weird fucking graphical error,
It
and
was
then
just a
like
void.
yeah, it was a void, or sometimes it will be bright fucking white. Like you see where the water is, and it's just like a bright fucking white texture, and you jump in it, and then your whole screen is white because you're underwater. So it's like there's no water texture. It's just completely white. It took them half a year to fix that. Nintendo, a multi-billion-dollar video game company, can't emulate N64 games, whereas some fucking idiot that lives in his mom's basement, can basically spend 2 years programming this shit, and then everybody's like, "Yo, thanks, dog. Here's fucking $5 for a donation."
Right, and then there's also Nintendo, the same company. Well, it's not really Nintendo. Nintendo, it's the Pokemon
Nintendo.
company. They can't fucking put out a Pokemon game that works good, looks good, without it.
Yeah,
look, there's just
do you see the eye, dude? I remember seeing the eyes like coming out like if it was a cartoon character from like Looney Tunes and shit.
it was like eye stalks like a fucking snail type
Yeah, and the
shit.
funny thing is that it happens to everybody. Like, it's a glitch. It's not like one of those glitches where it's like, oh, like when I was playing Dead Space 2 Severed, there was a part in the game where my character's hanging upside down, and I gotta shoot the necromorph so they don't get to me. I died in that part like 4 fucking times, right? Because I just sucked. And then next thing you know, I guess that encounter was on a timer. So there was 2 necromorphs still alive and that I didn't kill. So what happens is that my character, he was supposed to basically let himself go and then run through the doors before they closed. That didn't happen. Since the necromorphs were still alive, what ended up happening was that my character still did the animation where he drops down, but he was still floating in the air, right? Where the necromorphs were down. So literally he was hovering above the necromorph's head. So I played the whole freaking animation where he's supposed to run through the door so the door closes behind him. But instead what he did is that since he was
he no clips.
Since he was hovering in the air, the character no clips through the fucking wall, right? And ends up in the room where he was supposed to. So when the cutscene ends, he's still floating in the air and he drops down a few feet. So he lands. And then when I look around, I'm like, all right, I guess I passed that combat encounter, and then I just kept going off my business. The game glitched itself because I guess the character was like, dude, I died 4 fucking times in here, man. I've had enough. I'm gonna use no clip, and I'm just gonna get past this encounter because I'm sick. I'm sick and tired of my fucking upper body being separated from my lower body. But anyway, so we made it to, and then of course, I talked about this with Buggy last time. We had, Resident Evil came out because the last stream was about, horror games. This is just gaming in general. Resident Evil came out, of course, I'm playing those games on my channel. So, you guys can, if you guys go into my, just my homepage, there's like a Resident Evil section and just click on it and watch shit. It's how YouTube works. But yeah, I remember those games scared the shit out of me. I remember basically popping in that PlayStation disc and just seeing that first zombie. It just took the first zombie. I was like maybe like 5 or 6. That zombie just fucking turns around and I just see his fucking it was poorly animated too. So he has like that dead expression on his face because it's 1995 and sorry, it was 1996 when that game came out. Was it? Yeah, 1996. Sorry, not 5. But yeah, and then the zombie gets up and he just has some awkward walking animation and I just hear moaning, and that was enough for me to basically just turn off the game because it was too intense for me. Why? I was 6 years old and it was like, it's not like a game. It's not like, I can imagine 6 years old, like kids who are 6 years old now, like they're so desensitized. Like, they look at the original Resident Evil and it will be like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is garbage. But but back in the day, that was brand spanking new. Like that was the next gen experience. But we're gonna leave it at PlayStation for now, at least for me. We're gonna hand it over to Drebin. We'll continue to the PS2 era. When we get to the PS2 era, we're gonna hold it down to Spectre. Why? Because Spectre's younger than us and he was born in the early 2000s. So I want to see from his perspective before we go into PS2 stuff about what was gaming to him. Since me and Drebin were born in the 90s. I was born in 91. You're 93, right?
93, yeah.
Yeah, 93, yeah, because you're 2 years younger than me. And Spectre, if I remember, you were born in 2003, right?
Yes.
Yeah, man, I'm so fucking good with numbers.
That's a decade.
A decade, yep.
I
Like,
don't even know what
decade.
9/11 is. Oh my god.
He's a baby. We have a baby on stream.
No.
Everybody hide the drugs and alcohol. It's a family show.
But all right, let me get into it then.
Go ahead, your turn. Oh
What's it called?
fuck! What the hell?
Like I said, My name is Drebin. First ever game I ever played was specifically when I was living in my first house that I could remember. PlayStation 1, Road Rash. That was the first game I ever played, and it was because my fucking babysitter would bring it over because she owned it, not and like I had a PlayStation 1 or she had a PlayStation 1 or whatever. But that was the first ever game I ever played. But as soon as I started getting my own stuff, when we moved out of that house, I had Sega. I think it was Master System and Genesis.
Damn.
I had NES. I didn't have SNES, but I had NES with Duck Hunt and all of the Duck Hunt stuff. The funny part about that is I would cut the fucking wires and just use them as fucking like Nerf guns and shit because they made a sound when you fucking pulled the trigger.
So you would destroy your controllers just so you can play with them outside the room? Why couldn't you just like get the cord and like not cut them and put them in your pocket? Like, wow, wow. As a
Because I was
parent,
a stupid.
as a parent, man, you're super out of focus right now. There you go. But
Oh,
going
well.
going back to Road Rash, I'm glad you brought that game up. I gotta play. I don't remember which one I got first, a PlayStation or N64. I remember at some point I had both, like before the PlayStation 2 was a thing. I even had a Dreamcast when the Dreamcast failed. Like I think they were like fucking giving them away, and my mom bought one in Toys R Us and be like, "Here you go, a new game system." Even though I knew that the Dreamcast wasn't being sold anymore because I'm a kid, I stay more up to date with gaming news than a parent does. Um, well, especially back then, I'm not a parent, but if I was a parent, I would know my shit because I play video
Right.
games too. Yeah. But like that when the kid basically says, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with this game. This game is, it's a nice game for kids." Me seeing that big ass M looking at the back and be like, "Bruh, you can go and
Bruh.
you can pay for sex in this game. You're 12, nah." And basically not buy it for him.
Speaking of, I had that experience
But wait,
too.
wait, 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 wait. Let me finish the whole Road Rash thing.
All right.
I had both the N64 and the PlayStation version. The N64
There's an
version,
N64 version?
yeah,
I didn't know that.
the N64 version was in my opinion better because it had the 4-player mode. If you had the thing
Uh,
is that I had cousins that used to come along and we used to play like 4-player GoldenEye and shit like that. So
I remember that.
I had cousins that would bring their own controllers because when I was a kid, the majority of kids had N64s since it's a Nintendo console and back in the day we all grew up on Nintendo, so the adults will go buy a PlayStation, and then the kids will have the N64 because you just need a console, and if you buy the controllers, you can make 4 kids happy. Whereas a PlayStation only 2 unless you buy a multi-tab, and then not every game had a 4-player experience. On the
Right.
N64, like 95% of the games had a fucking multiplayer component where you can be one. The screen splits up to 4 and then you guys shoot each other or you guys throwing pies or whatever the fucking the game was. But going to Road Rash, there's the PlayStation version was a little bit more superior, even though the N64 version I think had like better features with the 4-player stuff. The PlayStation version has something the N64 version didn't have, and it was FMVs. Cuts.
Right, yeah.
So I
I
remember
never got that far though. I
there
never
was
got to the MPVs.
I saw one. Well, there was FMVs for when you failed, and I remember there was one.
Oh, yes,
I
I
remember
do
there was
remember
one
that.
FMV that I remember as a kid solely, and you can probably look it up on YouTube. But I faintly remember this one, and this is the one that I always hated because it kind of scared me as a kid. What it was is that if you got caught by the cops, there was like 4 or 5 different cutscenes that can play out about your character getting arrested. If you got caught by the cops, there was this one cutscene where the cop arrests you, right? And your guy's like trying to resist arrest, and he's like throwing you on the hood of the car and shit like that. And these are like real people, like they weren't animated, so they had real actors playing these parts out. And there was a part where basically he opens the police door of his squad car to stick you in, right? But when he opens the door, there's like 2 to 3 guys already in the back seat. So the cop is thinking to himself, "What the fuck do I do now?" And then he has like a devilish grin on his face. He's like, all of a sudden he's like, and all of a sudden he just opens up the trunk of the truck of the car and he throws your character in there and he closes it, and that's the last thing you see. And as a kid, for some reason, that used to scare the shit out of me.
I remember stuff like that with the because you were playing Twisted Metal recently. That was my game.
I gotta go back and
Twisted.
play. I gotta go back and finish the
Oh
second game.
God,
Yeah, because
you got to play 4. 4 was my favorite
four
because
is my. Here's the thing. I showed when I was introducing. I mean, Spectre already played Twisted Metal before I introduced him to it. Before the live streams. The first game I played, because I was doing like I was sharing my screen on Discord here with him. The one game I showed him was Twisted Metal 4 because it's my favorite one on the PlayStation. Twisted Metal 3 is just garbage.
It
Um,
was
pr-
alright.
Pretty much
Wasn't
with
that great?
all right, with Twisted Metal 1 and 2, pretty much it was made by Single Track, and
Mm-hmm.
then pretty much they didn't want to basically be developing for Sony. So they pretty much like they weren't owned by Sony. They had a contract for Sony to develop a few games and make them first party for the PlayStation. So and then they separated, they separated from Sony and they were like, "Yo, man, we're gonna make games for the fucking PC. We're gonna make games for other platformers." Well, they got bought by GT Interactive, which was a publisher at the time. They don't exist anymore. And then GT, the funny thing is that GT Interactive basically, remember they were like, "Oh, we're gonna make PC games. We're gonna make games for the N64. We're gonna branch out." They got bought by GT Interactive, and GT Interactive was like, "Nah, you're making PlayStation games."
Damn.
So yeah, so they stayed and made PlayStation games, and then they made like I think like 2 or 3 more games that are like Twisted Metal, but they had their own like different spin on things. But so when Twisted Metal 3 and 4 were made, Spectre, you know this studio, 989 Studios.
I
Yes.
remember that.
989
Studios.
Studios.
Yeah.
I remember that
Man.
because of the fucking what was it? The like the sport like the downhill games where you were either on a bike, a fucking luge, or what? Oh
Cool
god,
Borders. Remember Cool Borders?
I don't remember what it was called, but it was oh man, it was
Cool
like an
Bo-
X Games.
Cool Borders was a snowboarding game on the PlayStation 1 made by 989 Studios.
I,
It was a snowboarding game where you will race people down the fucking mountain on a snowboard and you can do
that was
tricks and
probably
stuff.
yeah.
You can do tricks and stuff. But the one cool thing that game had was the fact that remember how in Road Rash you can beat the shit out of the other bikers?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Cool Borders did the same thing. If there was another snowboarder next to you, you can press the shoulder buttons and your character would just like start punching the shit out of the guy so you can knock him off his snowboard. Yeah.
Wait, was it called Extreme or Cool Borders or something like that?
Cool Borders is what I'm talking about.
3? Like 3?
They had 1 and 2 also. I think they made all of them. They also made one of my favorite racing franchises on the PlayStation 1. It was Jet Moto. And
God, that was good. That's oh my god.
I remember Jet Moto 2 and Jet Moto 2 had like the hover bikes had sponsors.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
not sponsored though. But my favorite Jet Moto one was the one that had the Mountain Dew fucking decal on it. I used to drive the big
Um.
green bike because I
Oh
had a
yeah. Jet Moto 3.
Jet Moto. Oh, they only made Jet Moto
Oh.
3? Oh, well, Jet Moto 1 and 2 were the shit. Well, Jet Moto 1 was okay. It was a proof of concept. Jet Moto 2 was like, all right, we got the engine, we got the physics going. Now we're going to make this game awesome. And then, Jet Moto 2 was awesome. And that's what I always say. Like, when I really hate when developers make like, sequels to like a game that people are like, whoa, this game was really fucking good. It's a classic. Then the sequel comes out and you're like, what
What?
happened? Like, what happened? Like, you guys had such a good game, you fucked it up. Yeah.
That didn't happen often, but when it did, we were like, oh
But yeah, let's kick it
no.
back to Drebin. So Road Rash and stuff. Okay.
Reloaded and Reloaded, two top-down shooters that were basically you were like a
Yeah, I know what they are.
they were like you were like an insane asylum like fucking character or some shit. You were like breaking out of the asylum.
I think the first game was a launch title for the PS1, if I'm correct. The first
Yeah,
Unloaded,
because
yeah.
because when I got my own PlayStation, we got that with it, and then we ended up getting oh god, so much time between that Road Rash, then eventually Tony Hawk games, which I never beat. The first one I got, I think I actually beat was it might have been it was the one with the zoo, because I think the zoo was the last level. That was the only one I ever beat.
Right.
Like before Tony Hawk's Underground and all that, but we'll talk about that when we get to PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
But mainly the PlayStation 1 games that were in my rotation. Oh, before I get into that, my dad one time was like, "Oh, you want this Metal Gear game?" And I was a stupid 6 or 7 year old. I'm like, "What the fuck is that? What the hell is Metal Gear? I don't know what the fuck Metal Gear." I was stupid. I was such a fucking idiot.
You want to hear a stupid that game was so advanced to me as a kid. So when I was a kid, like maybe 8 or 9 when that game came out, I used to make it all the way to Revolver Ocelot,
Right.
beat Revolver Ocelot, and then I would not know how to basically progress from the game. I used to call the colonel, and what does the colonel tell you? Yo, man, you gotta contact Meryl. Me as an 8-year-old be like, I don't even have her phone number, dude. And then basically, this dude was like,
Gotta check the back of the box,
check the
boy.
back up the CD box.
Yeah.
I had
The
one of
only
I had one of those discs that was in the game. What do you call this thing? This is how dumb as fuck as I was as a kid, and it's gonna make you laugh. So in the game, I forgot there was one of those floppy type disc things that you have in your you have in your inventory. So as a kid, I didn't think that, that I needed to use a real world object to solve a problem in the game.
it was
So
anti-piracy, boy. That's what that was.
yeah, so I did not know that I had to basically. Is that why that was there for anti-piracy?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, that's a good way of doing it. But
Lot, not only they weren't the only ones that did it. It was Sierra did it too with their their what's it called, point and click adventures. They would have like separate like books
I
that
forgot
you
what
would
game it
have.
was, but there was one that is infamous that had like a fucking spinning wheel, and you literally had to decipher a code, like if you were fucking Indiana Jones, just to basically
Might have
play
been a Sierra game.
It might have been a Sierra game, but anyways, it's fucking crazy what they had to do to combat piracy back in the day.
It was
But
so
yeah,
damn easy.
but anyway, yeah, because it's still easy today, but um.
Yeah, but they don't give a shit.
Actually, in the 2000s,
Except EA. EA gives a
I
real
think
big
what was it?
shit.
Yeah.
I think it's either the first or second Serious Sam. If you're playing a pirated copy,
It was
back in
3, I think, because you get that invincible spider, like scorpion monster. That
yeah,
was 3. I remember hearing about that. That was 3.
there was
Thankfully, I only have ever had a regular copy.
there
So
was an there. If you go back, if you can probably find these on YouTube. I think Watch Mojo has a list.
yeah,
There were some developers to combat piracy. If you download a pirate version, the game will do like a check to make sure that you're playing a legitimate copy. And if you're not playing a legitimate copy, you will still be able to play the game, but there will be like some bullshit, like for
like
example,
like
like
like you couldn't jump or something.
you couldn't jump or what do you yeah. So they did something to make sure that you can only play like maybe 20% of the game, and then the rest
Yeah,
of it's like, yo man, like this is an awesome demo you just downloaded, but
yeah,
you gotta buy it if you want to play the rest of it.
yeah.
But yeah, it was either you couldn't jump, or sometimes like your bullets will only do half damage, or sometimes they will spawn like in like Serious Sam's 3. I think Serious Sam 1 and 2 did it too.
Oh,
I
okay, yeah. Because
I
the
think they
first one
all
I ever played was 3.
I think they all did it. I think if you download a pirate version of the game, they will like basically like spawn in like
Invincible
they
enemy.
will
Yeah,
spawn in a basically like it'll be something like a spider, but like instead of spawning like a normal size spider, they will
be
like
like,
yeah, they will basically like put like 200% like fucking size increase, so you'll be fighting like a kaiju size monster, and it's
right.
unbeatable. So you're playing the game and it scares the shit out of you, because all of a sudden this big ass spider pops up, and you're shooting at it, and the spider just keeps coming and it kills you. And no matter how hard you try to beat the spider, that's it. This is where the game ends. You got soft locked here. You can't play it anymore. You gotta buy the game. Stop being a cheap ass. But
Right. There was a. Oh, you were talking about getting scared of video games as a kid. I was 3 when Resident Evil happened, and one of my brother's friends, well, my brother slash my mom's friend, her son, we would be over their house a lot, and he had Resident Evil. I think it was where you dive through a window for the fucking police station or whatever. You were in like a locker room.
I think it was
It might have
I think
might
it's
have been 2.
Nemesis. Might have been
Oh,
Nemesis actually, because the Nemesis Resident Evil 3 Nemesis takes place before and after Resident Evil 2. Like the first half of the game, like they both of the games take place on the same day. Um
right. I
you know,
remember. I know that now because of the remakes. But
yeah, but in the original it's the same thing. Like I think that scene you're talking about, I think it's a part where Jill is trying to run away from like
the
Nemesis.
dead cop or something,
I think she's trying to run away from Nemesis actually, and then she jumps through a fucking window. It's either
and then
her,
she's.
it's either her or Carlos that does it. But
I don't
either way,
remember.
we'll find out. We'll find out. Eventually when I start streaming the games on my channel. When I start doing Resident Evil 3, I'm dreading that game because of Nemesis. Not just because he's scary. It's because when you have a pursuing force in a game that basically like just wants it's just there to basically kill you and consume your ammo, and the game is basically forcing you to basically go to the next room. Because here's the thing, I'm playing Resident Evil 2 right now, and
Yeah.
Mr. X only popped out like 3-4 times, and then
Oh,
he walks way too slow, and every time he appears, I end up fucking killing him because he drops ammo, and then I replenish the ammo I lost, or he gives me ammo for a gun that is like, holy shit, he gave me Magnum ammo? Nice. Now I can bust more heads with the Magnum. But the problem with Nemesis is that Nemesis doesn't walk. Nemesis runs. He runs, he starts jabbing you. Eventually, he gets a rocket launcher and he starts shooting RPGs at you. It gets fucking crazy, and this motherfucker follows you to rooms. Like
yeah.
you'll go to the door, right? And then you'll walk around the room, and even though he was just attacking you, like in the room previously, you'll hear the door open, and you'll hear the stars, and that motherfucker's already running towards you, like trying to do
It just
that Charlie meme where he's like, "Get away from me!" I don't know if you ever seen that shit.
there, no, but good luck on the remake because Mr. X in the remake, he's kind of like Nemesis. Actually,
Yeah, but he
he's
doesn't run at
he,
you. At least
no, but
he walks.
he's faster than the original version, but he's more menacing and he'll fuck you up. Like because the police station like where you first encounter him is actually like smaller in wherever he encounters you is actually smaller spaces than the original game.
My problem with
It's
my problem with the Resident Evil games is that I like how they begin. Like I like,
yeah,
what I mean by I like how they begin is that, like in Resident Evil 1 or even Resident Evil 2, like Resident Evil 1 you had the Spencer Mansion as like they always put you in a location where you have multiple fucking like entrances and shit for you to go to.
right.
But
Or you
then
have to
like
go a certain route.
yeah,
Yeah,
and then you have like you always like in a fucking space where you have like all these different rooms, all these different paths that you can go to. Maybe there's a hallway full of zombies, and instead of you taking that shortcut, you'd be like, you know what? Instead of me wasting ammo or having to basically deal with 2 to 3 zombies in that hallway, I'm just gonna go the long fucking way. That's the parts that I like. The one thing I don't like about the Resident Evil games is that, I understand that the game has to end at some point, but it's the same thing when you get to Resident Evil 2, when you get to Resident Evil 1. I don't remember Nemesis that much. It'll probably start coming back to me when I start playing the game like Resident Evil 2 was. I started playing Resident Evil 2, and when I started playing it, I'm like, I don't remember fucking anything. And then the more and more I started fucking playing it, I'm like, oh, okay, I remember this room. Because, it's just, you have to see the room yourself for all of a sudden that memory in your brain somewhere to click in and be like, yo, remember this room when you were like 7? And I'm like, yeah, now I remember. And all of a sudden, like, something scary happened in this room. I don't remember what it was. And then the scary thing happens and be like, oh, it was this motherfucker. Right. And then you kill it. Yeah.
the only like
Yeah.
scary game that was kind of like Resident Evil was this like Jurassic, like there was like a dinosaur game that was in the same vein.
Turok?
Might have been,
No.
but it was but like it was like in a facility and you go through and then like a Tyrannosaurus like busts through the fucking window and nearly kills you and
Oh,
shit.
Dino Crisis.
Yeah,
Yeah. It was
that
Resident Evil
shit.
with dinosaurs. Yeah.
Yeah, that shit. While it was scary, it was also awesome.
There was
Fuck,
on the Super Nintendo, just to go back one generation, on the Super Nintendo, there was this Jurassic Park game that when you're playing this game is infamously hard. Like it's one of these games that is like impossible to fucking beat because it's just poorly programmed. I mean,
right.
you can beat it. There's people who beat it, but it's one of those games that like
Pac-Man.
only 2% of the world's population are gonna beat. The rest of them will have to search up a long play on YouTube. But
Like Pac-Man. Pac-Man had that infamous glitch level that you had to beat.
yeah, I
So,
forgot what it was. I think it was when you get to level 256 or whatever the fuck it was.
something like that. Yeah, it had to be 256
Yeah, when you
because
got to it was that the arcade cabinet will run out of RAM.
right. That
Yeah,
yeah,
it
because
will
it
run
was
out of
only
RAM because you will go up to like level like you'll go to like stage 100 and something, and then the game was like, it would just stop loading the fucking like half the maze would just be like a bunch of binary code, and then the other half will be like actually rendered fucking shit. But what was I gonna say? So in this Super Nintendo game, so it's a top down shooter until you get into the buildings. When you get into the buildings, it turned into remember this is a Super Nintendo game, so when you got into the buildings, it turned into like this first person shooter view, like the old Doom style.
right.
But the reason why I'll show you this video, I'll show it to you in the Discord. But the scary thing that it was is the fact that So you will have to kill dinosaurs, that will, like velociraptors that will come at you. But the reason why they will look so scary is because of the sprites.
Yeah,
They literally took a picture of the animatronics that they had, in the movie, and they put them
yeah,
as
yeah,
sprite.
yeah.
So when I'm a kid, like back in the early '90s, like 4 or 5, playing this Jurassic Park game, and then I have this fucking Velociraptor, like in a sprite, like it looks goofy as fuck nowadays, but back in the '90s, we didn't have anything better. So you see this thing walking towards you, like, of course, with a scary raptor face, and you're like, ah, and you're just fucking trying to shoot it and shit.
I would like to say before we go to PlayStation 2, I would
Yeah,
like to talk about arcade stuff. Specifically, the first time I was ever in an arcade was the ESPN Zone down in Baltimore, because my dad would take us to the fire department, the firefighters convention,
yeah,
and we would have lunch at like ESPN Zone, Hard Rock Cafe, and that was where I first found the it's not like a video game, but they had like a section where it was like hockey boards, and you had to like fucking shoot the puck into like a fucking cardboard like fucking goalie, like get past him and shit. Like for an arcade game that wasn't like a video game, that was my favorite.
you ever played
Then
Daytona?
Daytona USA is my
Yeah,
other favorite.
we had the eight fucking driver seats.
Yeah, because like
Yeah,
fucking we would go to NASCAR races, is same in Dover. We would go to Dover,
yeah, the NASCAR
and they
cafe.
would,
Yeah,
yeah, well, yeah, they would have it outside the track before the race started. Which, speaking of that, another like fun event that they have at those is like pit crew tests. So you get the fucking pit crew gun, and you test how fast for you to get the fucking wheel off and then back on. So that was cool. There's another arcade game that my dad and my brother only ever played once. It was a firefighter game, and you had like firefighter hoses, and like it
ah,
was kind of like Duck Hunt,
I
where it was like
forgot
a
what it
light
was
gun.
called. I think it was either Sega or Capcom that fucking published it and
But
developed it. I
I
forgot what it
want to
was called, but I
I
remember what
want
it
to
was. It was
my
so fucking cool.
my dad and my brother played it once, and like we never found it again because like every other arcade we had ever been to after that never had it, and it
Okay,
pisses me off.
when I
I want to own that.
when I
That's
was
the
a
one arcade game I want to
so
own.
when I was a kid, to me an arcade when I was a kid was nothing more than your local laundromat having
Yeah,
maybe
yeah, yeah.
maybe the local
Metal
laundromat.
Slug, Metal Slug.
They always had these games. They either had a Metal Slug, one of them. They always had a Metal Slug game somewhere there. They had, you had a Pac-Man.
Soccer.
You had a Pac-Man. I never seen a soccer one. You had a Pac-Man. You maybe had a Galaga. They might have been a Dig Dug if you were lucky. Dig Dug is one of my favorite fucking arcade games. Um, and
Love it.
then and then you either had a Mortal Kombat or you had a Street Fighter. It was either one of those. You either had Street Fighter 2 or you had like Mortal Kombat 2 or Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. Or if it was an ancient fucking, like if the person like didn't update their machines, then it probably would have been the original Mortal Kombat. But
What we had was Konami's Premier Soccer
we didn't have that
or,
shit.
or Tecmo World Cup 90,
Didn't have that
or
either.
like it was mainly that because like where we were living at the time, colloquially known locally as Little Mexico of Long Island, um like ours had like all the Metal Slugs out, like not at one time, but like they would get Metal Slug, and when the next one came out, eventually they'd roll that one in. But then we also had that soccer game, and I think there was one other, but it wasn't as good. I don't
Well,
remember. And they had pinball machines. Pinball machines. I used to fucking. What's funny is
I
I
love
would
pinball.
steal. I would, because my mom worked there. I would steal from the register to play pinball.
Jesus Christ. Well, it's not like she couldn't get the money out of the fucking, pinball machine.
But here's the funny part. This laundromat had these old machines, and I'm the reason why they upgraded them, because I would go in there with a fucking coat hanger, like scrunched up and pulled apart, and go into the lint trap and pull out fucking hundreds of fucking dollar bills from all these. God, I don't want to say it like this, but it's 100% true. All these Mexicans washing their clothes, fucking leaving money in their pockets. I was fucking got so much
You
money from.
you were a mischievous little child.
But
But
I was so goddamn rich. I wish I had all that money right
so
now. Oh my
besides
god.
besides the laundromats and like the local pizza parlors, because Pizza Hut
I didn't even have that.
when I
Yeah.
was growing up, Pizza Hut was the shit because not only did they those not only did they have some arcade games inside the restaurants, they had a salad bar.
Yeah, I only been to pizza. I've been to a physical like hutted Pizza Hut once in my life.
Oh, I've been to several times, and
It was sad because it was the last one on Long Island, and after that, we just never went there because it was like because where I was living with my dad at the time,
the
and it was
coolest
too far.
the coolest thing about Pizza Hut in the mid to late '90s was the fact that they partnered up with PlayStation. So
Yeah,
I used to go to Pizza Hut as a kid, or sometimes have Pizza Hut delivered as a kid, to the house.
right,
Every now and then, we'll get pizza maybe like every 2 weeks or something. Whenever my
right,
mom didn't want to cook or something, she'll be like, "We're ordering pizza, and that's what we're having for dinner." And of course, as a kid, you're
right.
like, "Fucking pizza, yes!" And
Well, yeah,
even as an adult, I do that too. I'm like, "Yes, pizza!" But the cool thing about Pizza Hut back in the mid to late '90s was the fact that I think if you spend like $3 extra, you can buy a demo disc for PlayStation 1.
oh, I know all about demo disc.
Dude,
Oh
I
my
had
god,
so many demo
me
discs.
too. My
I had,
dad would just bring them home.
yeah, yeah, because they were like, I think they will get a new one like every single month. Like the restaurant will get a new one every single month. So like, if my parents are ordering pizza every other week, for a weekend or something, for like a weeknight or whatever. But they will call and then and there used to be like, all right, large meat lovers or whatever,
Right.
and then you'll have the Pizza Hut guy be like, would you like to add on a PlayStation demo disc with your order? And of course, it's like $3 extra, and you're like, yeah, sure.
There was this there was
Yeah.
this one demo disc. Yeah, I'm sorry,
No, you
but
could.
I have to say this because there was this one demo disc that had like a what is it like 2.5D esque JRPG game that wasn't even a Final Fantasy, right? And
I
it
think
was
I know
about
which one you're talking about.
I don't remember what it was called, but I would play the fuck out of it. And I told my dad, I want this game. I don't think he never got it for me because I don't think he could find it. Because I don't think anywhere had it for whatever reason.
There
But
was
there
this
was a
there was this one test drive game that I used to play religiously.
yeah,
I think it was Test Drive. I think it was Test Drive 6 for the PS1. I used to play that shit religiously in the demo because it had such a cool fucking soundtrack. I think that's what it was. It had a cool soundtrack, and as a kid, I was like, "Yo, man, I like playing this game. I mean, because it's just like any other racing game, but I like playing this
yeah,
game because the music is awesome." But
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. There was another one, but it was like for like NES or whatever. But
Oh,
it was all wireframe, and it sounded like it was playing like ZZ Top in the background, and you would base it was basically I think it might have been like a dev kit like fucking game or whatever that my dad had somehow scored. And like all you would do is just drive this wireframe car along this wireframe track and then get to a loop the loop. And the goal was to get as fast as you can to do the loop the loop. I could never like in my nowadays I couldn't remember the goddamn name of it, and I wanted to play it again. I
I
fucking
hate that. I there was another PS1 racing game that I remember that you can blow up like it was like Burnout. I forgot what it was called, but like it didn't have the same physics obviously, but what I mean by Burnout mean that if you
yeah,
crash into your opponents so many times, either you can blow up or you can blow up your opponents. But I don't remember what it's called, and I always do so many searches for like PS1 racing games, and I went down every single fucking list, of,
yeah,
of racing games, and I have come to the conclusion that I made this fucking game up in my head because I
right.
cannot fucking find it. Yeah, I cannot fucking
The
find it.
game
Yeah.
that game I just mentioned, I feel the same way because I was like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah, you
what was
can't
it
find
like?
it.
Because I tried everything: wireframe racing game Sega, wireframe racing game SNES, or
Wait, wait,
whatever.
wait, 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 wait. Spectre, do you
Yeah,
have a game that you remember from your childhood, but you can't for the fucking life of you remember the name?
dude. Listen,
And then no
for the
matter,
past, dude, listen,
all right,
for the past 20 minutes when you guys are talking, I've been trying to search for that fucking game that I'm trying to remember.
what game is it? Maybe we can, maybe if you
It's
describe
in
it to
okay,
us.
no, okay, so it came with my Windows XP, the
Oh fuck, it's a PC
operating
game. That can
system.
be anything now.
I know, no, it's an RTS game
It can
Oh,
be anything.
that
It's a
okay.
PC RTS game in the early 2000s or mid 2000s. That could be anything.
it's yeah around the 2000s, right? So,
Windows XP
I mean, it's
RTS.
basically, I mean, I can't really narrow it down. It's basically, there's helicopters, planes, and choppers. I mean, well, I already said helicopters. Fuck.
Helicopter planes,
Tanks.
choppers, tanks. So what was it? What kind of squad? I mean,
I,
what kind of infantry were you fucking with?
Was it a
there, there,
Was it
there
a
weren't,
demo?
there was no infantry, but I think it was a wild tangent game or something. I have no fucking clue, but I do
Um,
not remember what it's called. I am looking through real-time strategy games right now,
You know what? Let's get the
and
audience involved. Audience, if you're watching, if you made it to this point, write down, a game. Describe a game that you remember playing as a kid and you enjoyed it to the point that you want to basically, as an adult, you want to visit it for nostalgic reasons to remember if the game was good or not. But then every time you try to find the game, you're like, I can't fucking find it. I look up on YouTube, I look up on Google, I look up lists of like PlayStation games, but for some fucking reason, the game does not exist.
yeah.
So at that point, it's like, that's what I gotta ask myself. Are we making these games up? Or did we come across a game that never made it to fucking retail release and we just had a copy of said game that probably was a prototype or something? And that can be a possibility because I remember this racing game on PlayStation 1. I remember like it was yesterday. I remember the music and everything, but I can never fucking find it. I don't remember the name. And every racing game I look for the PS1 that and every single fucking list, that I find is never the fucking game. It's always something different.
sorry if I'm doing my own little search
Yeah,
here.
I
So
figured I
you
figure
guys
you
talk.
Yeah.
I figure you were doing some hardcore research because I was looking at you. But anyways, I think me and Drebin have talked enough, so we'll give Spectre the floor. So Spectre,
Yeah.
what are your early gaming memories?
Okay, so when I was young, right, the first few games I was only allowed to play were educational games, right?
Nice.
Yes, my parents were pretty strict. So until I got like what 9 or 10, that's when I was introduced to the PS2 and the Windows, operating system, Windows XP. That
Nice.
was the earliest.
I thought you were saying that you
S-
were
So
introduced. I thought you were gonna say that you were introduced to a window, meaning that like your parents allowed you to look outside for the first time after 9 years. We have a very sheltered child. He doesn't even know what the sky looks like.
I
Yes.
found it. This is the game. If you check chat, hard driving on Genesis. It wasn't specifically wireframe, but it was like that early fucking like
Hard driving.
polygonal.
Oh, you know what this reminds me of? Well, there's a Super Nintendo version that's called Race Driving. Um,
That one.
and
Yeah,
that
that's
game
all
runs
good.
like shit. Like that game runs at like -2 frames per second. Um, but that game is actually based off that's actually based off an arcade game that's called Real Driving, and it was a very popular racing simulator back in the 80s. But anyways, um, let me ask you a question, Spectre, and we'll get back to you real quick.
Yeah.
When it came to education games, did you ever play any games from Humongous Entertainment? Games like Putt Putt or Pajama Sam, Freddy Fish,
Um. Okay.
Spy Fox? You remember
Okay. So
those,
my
right,
first
Drevin?
my first educational game was actually on a Leapfrog. If you know,
Oh,
if you do you remember the fucking yeah.
okay. Here's the thing: when Leapfrog came out, I was already too old to play with Leapfrog, but I know what it is because I worked in a lot of retail stores where I had to put away toys and shit. I used to work
Yeah.
when I worked at Walmart and at Target. For some reason, they will always put me in the toy aisle, so I basically always stock toys, and I always like stocking toys because like that, I can play with the toys while I'm putting them away, essentially, at work. And I used to put away a lot of fucking Leapfrogs. Of course, I can't play with them because they're inside the packaging. But you had like what was it? You had like the little laptop or whatever.
No, it was like a handheld.
Oh, so it was like
Uh,
the tablet thing.
it
Yeah.
the screen was so fucking tiny,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I think it also had the pen with it too. I think if I remember, I'm not sure, but yeah, those were basically my first few games that I ever played was on that thing, because strict parents. So,
Yeah.
but anyways,
I I remember
I got a PS2. I think it was like a an handout or some shit, from like a family member that had a few games on it. Mostly Crash Bandicoot and shit like that. So that's mostly what I played. Um, then I had Windows XP, which had I didn't have much games, and since I didn't have internet, back then, so I couldn't download anything new, and I had to go buy, discs for like the drive. But I think the first game I played on Windows XP were like the first few. There was there was that one pinball game you guys know, right? For the Windows XP that came with it.
Yeah, I remember
yeah,
that
yeah,
game.
Space Cadet. Space
Yeah.
Cadet's pinball. Yep. It
Yeah,
was actually sorry, it was Space Cadet 3D pinball. I gotta get the title right. But yeah, that was the game. I used to play that shit a lot. That with
yeah,
Solitaire. Yep.
yeah. I actually tried playing solitaire too. So it's
Solitaire was
Uh,
awesome. The one game I always hated on PC that I can never figure out were both what was it, Free Cell, which was another card game. I always hated that because I could never figure out what the fuck I was doing. And I always hated Minesweeper because Minesweeper is like that game is 100% RNG and you're just clicking on the screen until you die.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, then I had three other games which are I remember two of them, and I forgot the other one, which is the one I was trying to search up 5 minutes ago. But the first one is Dark Orbit, which was a over the top. You use WASD to go around. It was an orbital shooter. You controlled spaceships, and you were on like a derelict planet, or you controlled a spaceship, which you could upgrade with like better weapons and shit. And then there was these alien creatures that were just everywhere, and you would shoot them. It's a pretty cool game. I just it's you can't really download it anymore unless you use like a what is it, or digital computer or something like that.
Virtual Machine.
Yeah, virtual machine.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't run it at all on Windows 10 unless you go through a bunch of things, but it was pretty cool. I only had the demo, so the first level, I basically I couldn't have any upgrades or anything because the first level was like the tutorial. So like there was like things like rocket launchers and machine guns and all that cool shit. But yeah, it was a demo and I had to buy it, but no internet. So even if we did have money, we couldn't get it.
It's funny.
Um,
It's funny that you mentioned handhelds because my first ever handheld. I got a Game Boy when I was a kid, but my first ever handheld, or at least the first handheld game I ever played, was Snake on my mom's Nokia.
mm,
Yeah, it was like a Nokia. I think like 9910 or whatever the fuck it was. It was an old fucking Nokia. But you were saying?
yeah. But the other game, it's called Betty Bad. It actually reminded me a lot of Dead Space Zero G. In those areas, and there's a bunch. In Dead Space, there's a bunch of circular tunnels and shit, especially in Zero G.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of like that. That was the whole game. Well, that was actually the demo. So like, you play as like a badass lady with like a minigun, right? And you would go find different weapons throughout the level, like grenade launchers and shit. And then you would fight these weird crab spiders that would attack you. And there was a bunch of parkour and jumping and puzzles.
So
And
it was a
there's a
platformer,
yeah, it was basically
essentially.
a platform. So like, you use you can go forwards, backwards, left, and right in the tunnels. So you could basically go in a full, you know, um, you could do a full loop in the tunnels because you
Right.
would just go in a circle, and you can go backwards and forwards and all that shit. Yeah, that was also a demo. I watched a gameplay video of the full game. Uh, I was kind of disappointed actually when I watched that. I was like, "Damn, is that really just the game? I thought it was gonna be more than that." But
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. And then there was that RTS game I was telling you guys about.
Yeah, the
That
one you
is,
can't remember the name of.
yeah.
Yeah.
there's other games that I can't remember the names of. They're mainly like you were just talking about educational games, edutainment games. There was like one where you're a part of like some emergency like firehouse or whatever, and basically all you're doing is like painting fire vehicles, like
That's
fireboat,
definitely an emergency.
like it was so weird. Like it was just stupid like little kids games. Then there was this like Wild West like math or something game. Then there's obviously the math ice climbers game that I assume you probably heard of.
I
It
heard
was
of
like
there was Mario ones too, and shit like that. There was edutainment games. The one edutainment games I remember were from Humongous Entertainment. They had like several characters. There was four characters they always had. They had Putt Putt, which was a purple car. It was a purple talking car. You have Freddy Fish, was a yellow fish that basically played it. These were all point and click adventure games. You had a little kid that was named Pajama Sam that would go on all these adventures, and then you had this fox that was like James Bond. His name was Spy Fox. So you had
yep.
all these characters, and then pretty much like they all would go on their adventures. Like you were Putt Putt. You always did something car related, like hey, it's the day for the big race. Okay, man, let's get all the things to get the big race going. Or like you were playing as Pajama Sam, and Pajama Sam, like the first game, which is you know, there's no need to cry when it's dark outside or some shit like that. And pretty much the whole game was that you were a kid that basically were like you were in your room and then you heard a scary noise. You were afraid of the dark. You heard a scary noise, inside your closet, and then your character puts on this cape and he's like, yeah, I'm a fucking superhero. I'm gonna go defeat that monster's ass. You open up the closet, and then all of a sudden you got executed to a fucking world, and now you're in the world of nightmares or whatever the fuck it is, and then you have to basically purge the darkness from this world. It sounds like an epic RPG, but it was just basically just you pointing on the screen and having the character be like, I need to put water in the bucket
Mhm.
or some stupid shit like that, and then you go and you put water in the bucket and proceed.
Essentially.
Yeah, essentially, because that's what the objective was. All right, so PS2.
Yes. Who goes first?
All right, I guess I'll go first.
I'm
And then we
I
can
could if you don't want
and then
to.
we can bounce back from each other then. So, all
Okay.
right, so PS1 had the PS1 basically throughout the whole life cycle. We ended up
Hmm.
getting a Dreamcast, and then on the Dreamcast, basically, we will play things like Crazy Taxi, which is a game I wish I can stream, but god damn it, the offsprings will basically, nuke my channel from hell to kingdom come. But you know, what was it? It was also Jet Set Radio. We played a lot of House of the Dead.
Oh, I love Jet Set Radio.
Yeah.
I could never beat it because I was shitty at video games when it came out.
Yeah, there was one level that I remember you played as there was one level that you
I
unlocked
don't
it.
think I ever got past the first level because I
Oh
was a
no,
dumbass
I
kid.
got past like at least like a good portion of the game. There was one, and of course I would be playing it with cousins, so we'll take turns,
Right.
beating the levels. Because that's how we used to play video games back in the day. Somebody would have the console, and then you invite your cousin over and be like, "Yo, let's beat this game together."
Right.
Because your cousin couldn't afford the game, or sometimes you can't afford the game because your mom, obviously you're a kid, you don't have no money, and then your mom is like, "I'm not gonna buy you a video game. I bought you one like 2 months ago. Why
I
didn't you
had
play
an
that?"
uncle. I have an uncle. He's
Me
kind of
too. I have an uncle
de-
too.
he's
Spectre,
like
wait, wait. Let's make sure, Spectre. You have, do you have an uncle?
Yes, I have
mine
an uncle.
Okay, just making
mine is
sure.
so, mine is sort of developmentally disabled, or
Okay.
he's like on some sort of spectrum. I mean, he's
Yeah.
in the same situation I am,
Yeah.
but he's less high functioning. But he can hold a job. But he was always the uncle I would borrow PlayStation 2 games, PS3 games. He had an Xbox 360, but then it kept getting Red Ring of Death, and
I
he
remember
never.
one time. I remember. Sorry to cut you off, but you just reminded me of something. I remember one time in middle school, I had a Game Boy Advance SP,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and
I remember that.
so did my cousin, and I was a little bit older than my cousin. My cousin was still in elementary school, so I
Right.
remember that I had Final Fantasy. He lent me Final Fantasy Tactics. I don't understand why he had this game because his game was way too advanced for his young feeble mind. So I was playing it and I liked it because it's like chess, and I'm like, okay, cool, I'm playing it. And I remember there was this one kid that basically was like a classmate of mine's. I don't even remember. I remember what the kid looked like, if you ask me what was his fucking name, I'm like, I don't remember what his name was. I just remember he was a white kid with a dumbass look in his face because he had a smirk like he kind of looked like Bart Simpson now that I think about it. Because he had that smirk on his face like he was always up to no good, and he had spiky hair too. So
Of course he did.
I'm like, this kid is fucking Bart Simpson. So he's just not yellow skinned. He was white skinned.
Right.
Yeah. But he wasn't Asian is what I'm trying to tell you. He was a Caucasian boy. But anyways, I remember like he was in the class with me, and it was 7th or 8th grade. It was one of those two. I was in science class, and we had the substitute like Hispanic teacher. Well, this teacher was supposed to be a substitute, but she ended up being like the permanent teacher that year because the science teacher we had, this was still when we were fighting in the Middle East. So
I
Oh,
found
he went, yeah.
he went.
So the teacher that we had. So okay, so actually no, this was 6th grade. So this teacher, he was supposed to be my science teacher. I only had him for 1 week, and then in the beginning of school, and then after that, he went to war. He went to go fight guys. It was his black guy named Mr. Faison. I don't remember where he was stationed at, but anyways, he went over.
Not that, but what war? Do you remember if it was Gulf War One, the Iraq War?
It was the Iraq War,
Was it?
dude. I wasn't around, dude. I was a baby during Gulf War One.
Well, no, I
I'm
mean,
not that fucking old. But
I mean,
anyways,
I don't know.
but this was like in 2004. I think
Okay, so it was
like
like
it was like 2000.
invasion of
It
Iraq.
was like 2002. Yeah, so it was the invasion of Iraq. He went to go war, and then we had this Hispanic lady that can barely speak English. That she was our substitute. She was only supposed to be there like for like a month or so, but she ended up being there the whole entire school year.
Yeah.
Eventually, that was 6th grade. Eventually, in 8th grade, the teacher came back. Mr. Faison came back. He survived. He had all his limbs with him. You know,
That's good.
Yeah, and then the cool thing about this teacher was I think I said this to Buggy last time, or I said it in one of the it was either my podcast or he invited me to his friend's podcast, and I did a podcast for them at one point. But the cool thing that this teacher was, excuse me, the cool thing about this teacher was the fact that. So, do you remember when you were in school and you had to do the projects, like the science projects with the cardboard board and stuff?
Here's the thing about that. My entire life I was in BOCES, so I missed out on that cool public school shit like y'all did.
Gotcha. But Spectre, you know what I'm talking about, right? When you have to do a science project and you need to go to like your local, you need to drag your mom to the local Office Depot or whatever and buy yourself the science project board, which was like a cardboard board that will open like a book.
I know about that, yeah, because of the movies and shit.
Yeah,
but-
do you remember that, Spectre?
I don't actually think we did any of that.
Okay, well we did that, and I remember that they will always give you every teacher always gave you a list. I mean, you can pick something random, but it had to be science oriented. But they will always give you a list of like 30 different topics that they approve of. And it was stupid things like I
The
remember
volcano.
it was the
Classic
volcano.
volcano.
The volcano was one of them. I remember one of them was I done this one before when I was a kid. There was stupid ones like which popcorn brand pops popcorn faster. So and then I would go buy Pop Secret and I go buy Orville Redenbacher and I will go buy like store brand and I will pop them in the microwave and time them and be like, all right, which one stops popping like in the microwave? Like when do I hear the last pop? And then I had to basically record all that and I will make my hypothesis. One of them was the one I remember the most was which do ants prefer? Do ants prefer cheese or do they prefer sugar? I didn't even need to basically do the experiment. I just said that the ants prefer sugar, which in reality they do. They prefer sweetening over anything that's moldy and whatever, which is what cheese is. But yeah, and then pretty much this so when it came time to do one of those projects for school, this guy literally said, you know what, man? Every teacher always like has like a specific list of projects that they want you to do, which I always thought as a teacher, I always thought was boring because, you have a list of 30 things. All your kids every year pick one of those 30 things. So you see the same experiment as a teacher that your students has conducted every single year. I mean, it's a good thing. So like that, if they fuck up and they tell you something different, then you'll be like, you didn't do the experiment right. How do you
Right.
know? Because I've been running this experiment for 10 years, and in the 10 years I've been teaching, you're the first person who got F instead of A.
Right.
Yeah, and then that's when you basically have to question the kid's intelligence and be like, this kid is
Right.
dumb as shit. Yeah. But anyways, but he literally told us you can basically do a science project about anything, you know, as long as it basically is within the fields of science and technology. And I was really into Halo. So what my science project,
You were the Halo ghost kid, weren't you?
you know what's starting to, I had two other friends in that class. One of them I don't longer talk to was a kid named Damien.
Hmm.
Um, we had a falling out like maybe 10 years after the fact, and then we just don't hang out anymore or talk anymore. it's
Oh,
it,
I
it
know all about
it
that.
is it
Trust
is
me.
what it is. You grow up with people and then they don't grow up with
They
you anymore.
change. Yeah, they change.
Yeah, and but there was this one guy, his name was Regneri. He was this Cuban guy. He has a weird fucking name, but this guy
Right.
this guy actually grew up to be a fucking soldier. So I have him on Facebook, and he's basically doing tours in military, and he looks like he looks like the guys we play in our video games.
Awesome.
Yeah, it looks
Awesome.
cool, but I'm like, I will never do that job because
I,
playing video games is one thing, because if I die, I just press enter and start again. But like in real life, if a stray bullet hits me or if an intentional bullet hits me, regardless of the bullets, regardless of whoever was shooting and their intention is, if a bullet hits me right here, that's it, man. That's it.
I wanted to join the military, but by the time I was able to, like I was on a lot of medication because like my whole life I've been on medication, and that was one factor that they wouldn't let me in. I couldn't even waver that away.
I was gonna,
Um,
yeah. At one point, I was gonna join the Air Force, but and I would have done it. I would have been
yeah,
able to join too because I had the ASFAB and shit. But the problem was that I was too chubby, and they were like, lose the weight, and then
that's the other part. Yeah, I was.
I started losing the weight, and then I lost the weight. Well, I lost very close to the weight. I think I was still like 20 or 30 pounds overweight from like the limit. And they were like, no. And at that point, I was like,
That
I've been working out for like 8 months, and I lost so much weight. At that point, I lost motivation to go to the military because I passed the ASFAB. Like I said, the recruiter was like, "Yeah, dude, man, like we can get you in the actual like fucking like radar operator job because like you qualify, like you're fucking smart. The problem is that you just like food too much and you don't want to move around." And I'm like, "Yeah,
what
you're
you
right.
should have done. You
You're
should have
right.
joined the. You should have joined the army or the Marines. They would have been like, "Oh no, we'll work that off for you. Don't worry."
Yeah, they would
should
have.
have
Yeah,
should
for
have
well, the reason
should
why
have.
the reason why I wanted to join the Air Force is because their fucking boot camp is only like 6 weeks, whereas like
I mean,
you
yeah,
go to
and it's
the
also the smart route because my dad was Air Force. He was Air
yeah.
Force. He was a firefighter, and
Ooh.
all he does right now, up until he's retiring in a few years, he just sits at the Gabreski Air Base and he just sits in the fucking firehouse, watches TV, does a little paperwork because he's kind of a high-ranking dude. But other than that, he does nothing. Like the
Yeah, he's just there just in case there's a fire, and if there's no fire, then there's
the
nothing to
last
do.
time they had any sort of event, well, besides that plane that got shot down out of the sky on Long Island, they had to pull the bodies out of the Long Island Sound. His fucking fire team, they set up the helipad for the helipad to come in to pull in the fucking plane parts.
Yeah,
Other than that, was the 2000 was it 95? It was 95 wildfires in Long Island. He lit like I used to go to the school across the street from the airbase. It was the West Hampton Beach Elementary School, and you could see. I think it was I forgot what cardinal direction, but on one side of the school it was all dead trees and dead debris from the fires from years ago.
shit.
And my dad literally he had like the fucking fire truck set up in like a fucking he circled the wagons essentially, and they were defending this like fuel station at the fucking air base. Like Air Force is fucking awesome because like they do cool shit, but like I don't know. I mean, like I was never that smart when I was a kid. Like I probably would have went infantry to be honest, but like
Nah,
they wouldn't take me because I was on medication. I was
you're
what was it mental
chubby.
health? Well, that mental health slash behavioral shit. Like
Yeah, you
it
had to
was
take a
just
whole
fucking
psych evaluation because I took my psych evaluation and they were like, "You're good, man." Like I
yeah.
said,
It was
I was ready to go. The only problem was that I was just overweight for the part, and they were like, "We don't want people of your physical stature." That's literally what
right.
the recruiter said. we can't have people of your your physical stature.
That's
You
the Air
know,
Force, though.
yeah, they were
Air
nice. They
Force.
were nice about it. Like they told me don't be fat, and then they gave me a cookie, and they're like, here you go, kid, run along now.
Yeah, that's the thing about the Air Force. They're like retarded standards.
Yeah.
Like if you had, like I said, if you had like chose like Army or Marines, they would have been straight up like, oh, we'll work that off
Hey
you. Don't worry.
Spectre, let me ask you a question. Did you ever want to join? Did you ever want to join the Call of Duty simulator in real life or no?
No.
No. All right, that's just a question. But yeah,
But I,
it's already about an hour and 20 minutes. I think we should start calling it now. We can
I would like to say at least a couple things on the PlayStation 2 topic that we
All
ended
right,
on.
we can run it for 10 more minutes. We'll do it at 1:30
Okay.
and then we'll stop. Yep.
Let's just go through our five favorite PlayStation 2 games, and then we can call it.
Ooh, five.
Mine are, I would have to say, Tony Hawk's Underground. This is like a tie for like one section basically. Tony Hawk's Underground and Underground 2. Um, what else was? Oh fuck! I got Metal Gear Solid 3 because that was the first Metal Gear Solid that I played.
That's definitely on my list. Not the first one I
Um,
played, but it's on my list.
yeah, I never beat it. I got
Oh,
like how you said you would only get to a certain part, and I think it was one. I would get to a certain part and then not know how to progress at all, or not have the skill enough to progress. So like Metal Gear Solid, so that's 1 and 2, right? Because Tony Hawk is one. It's one whole series.
yeah.
Um, Metal Gear. There was Greg Hastings Paintball, which I'm gonna count PlayStation 2 and original Xbox because I had Greg Hastings Paintball, Tournament Paintball on Xbox, and the second one, Max, was on PlayStation 2, which I had both the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox version. And that's a game I would get fully immersed because at that time I was living with my stepmom and my dad, and well, she was my dad's girlfriend at the time, but her sons had paintball masks. So I would get that full immersion. I'd put the paintball mask on, then have the fucking because I was wearing glasses at the time.
I used to play
So
paintball for real back in the day, so
that's the one thing I never got to do as a kid
oh, it
because
was too
like it was
violent,
just
too
no, well,
expensive.
expensive, and also like I said, I was in BOCES for behavioral mental shit. So like my dad was like, "Oh, if we get him airsoft guns, he'll start shooting us with them and shit." And I'm like,
Yeah, so basically, okay, so you had your Metal Gear Solid 3, you had Tony
right.
Hawk, you had Greg Hastings paintball. So which are your other two for your favorite?
Um, Give me a moment. Let's go to Spectre because actually have to look up
The names?
those games.
All
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
I'll go last. So Spectre, what are your top 5 PS2 games?
Can I like name series or something like that? Because like I can't choose favorites in my series.
Just name a title, man. It doesn't have to be like
Okay.
it doesn't have to be like, oh, this is my number one game. Just name 5 titles that you like from the PlayStation. That's all you got to do. Just name 5 games you like.
Okay. Well, one of them is SOCOM.
All
I
right.
play. Uh,
I'll group all of them. Okay, cool. So that's a
yeah.
all. So those are your 5 favorite games, right? Just SOCOM. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's like 5 of them. Yeah,
SOCOM, yeah.
there's
I
like
never
4 or 5.
had it.
Oh, it was a good time. I never played online
Yeah.
when it was at its peak. I never played online. I was always like, I just had the discs and I'll just play the single player.
In
Yeah,
in the next episode, we can talk about 360 PS3 because that's where I started online gaming.
yeah. Me
But
too. Me too.
here's the
Before then, I used to just if I played anything online prior from Xbox 360, PS3, it was like a PC game, like Quake or something. Doing it on that 56K modem and hearing the beep, ooh, ooh.
right. I never really played PC games until I was like deep into high school,
But
to be
anyways,
honest.
wait. We gave the floor to Spectre and you took it away from him. Anyway,
Oh, sorry.
wait,
Sorry.
Drebin, do you even have your other 2 games or not yet?
Yes, Battlefront 2
That's a good one. I
and
had that for Xbox.
fucking crap, what was it? The Warriors. The Warriors Rockstar game.
Fuck yeah. I
Because
want
I was big into the movie. I fucking
I
loved that
want to play.
movie.
I actually played the video game first and before I saw the movie.
I
But I
saw the movie and then I found out about the game. I was like, oh fuck yeah!
yeah, I want to play that for the channel, but I'm afraid that I'll get fucking strike because they'll have some fucking song from the 70s that no
I don't
one
know.
fucking cares about. You know,
I don't remember if it has like one of those. I mean, it is a Rockstar game, so it might. But I
well,
don't know if it did.
if they don't have like licensed music, it does have music from the movie. So I'm afraid that
Maybe.
I might get copyright strike for the music in
But
the
here's the
movie.
thing: what you should keep an eye out is YouTube's actually going to be changing that
I know
for
that.
video games.
I know that. I just gotta wait until
Yeah,
they actually change it because I
yeah.
gotta.
So
There's a lot of
yeah,
games I want to play that, you
Tony
know.
Hawk, boy, fucking that classic
I'm sure.
underground soundtrack. Oh my god,
I'm sure
fucking
there's gonna
love
be
it.
rules for it. I'm sure that there's probably gonna be a rule that if you're playing a game and there's happens to be a cutscene where they play a music that's copyrighted, that. But I'm pretty sure they're gonna probably be like, if you're playing a game that the
Has
soundtrack
a
is,
radio or
if the
something.
soundtrack makes the game like 100%, then no. I'm pretty sure they're gonna do like that because that's the thing about, like, for example, Crazy Taxi. I was thinking about
Right.
playing Crazy Taxi with the music muted, and I tried playing it, and the only thing you hear is the car noises, and I'm like, I've never played a
This
game like.
sucks.
I'm like, I've never played a game like this. Spectre, I remember I was when I was showing him Twisted Metal 4. That thing has copyright music. It has songs by, like, by I mean, the first level has Dragula by fucking
Yeah.
yeah, the first level has Dragula, so I'm like, I'm gonna get copyrighted 100% if I play this game
Fucking love that
on
game.
anything. But
Hey, be
anyway,
careful. You can get copyrighted by just saying the fucking name.
yeah,
Dragula.
and I remember Spectre. I remember Spectre at one point. He goes, like, he's watching me stream it through fucking Discord, and he asks me, he goes, "Well, can't you just stream it with the fucking music off?" And I'm like, I can, but this is exactly what the game will be without the music. I turn down the music, and the only thing he hears is, because
Yeah.
it's the car and the missiles that I'm shooting, and then literally after like 5 seconds of hearing that, Spectre says, "This is boring as shit."
Right. Right.
And then I turn on the music, and then the music's like Dracula, and it's like, yeah, it's a lot more fucking better now.
That's the same thing with Tony Hawk. Like Tony Hawk was like the mechanics and shit were okay, but like the best part was just listening to that skater soundtrack
Yeah,
and
but
fucking
like,
hearing the background. It was the
yeah,
best
like,
part.
can you imagine playing Crazy Taxi and then you start the game and
Just nothing.
you don't
Just
hear
sitting.
you don't hear yeah like Offspring and shit.
No,
Yeah,
fuck that.
yeah, you don't hear.
Fuck
Yeah, it's
that.
like all you hear is yeah, Crazy Taxi, and then you just hear
Nah, fuck that shit. Nah,
because
nah,
all
nah.
you hear is the fucking car noises. The car
Fuck
noises
that.
is what the car noises is the bass. It's supposed to be the bass. It's the shit you hear in the background. You have the rest of
Right.
the song that basically like drives up the action.
If I
And
want a driving game that has no music, I'll play like a fucking racing sim. Like
yeah, that's
fucking
true.
R Factor
Or
2,
Gran
NASCAR
Turismo.
racing. Or no, not even Gran Turismo. Like R
Hey, I'm not
Factor
gonna lie
2.
though. I do, even though I don't play these games anymore because I don't have the patience. I did always enjoy playing Gran Turismo and just sitting in the
It was
menu
good.
and hearing that
Uh,
piano music while they show you like a
yeah.
fucking, like, they will show you like a Lambo in the background. It's like, wow, dude.
What was the one for PS3? Um, was it 4?
I think it was Gran
Gran
Turismo
Turismo.
4. Yeah. No, Gran Turismo.
Yeah,
No, 5. It was 5. Gran Turismo 4 was
yeah, that
Gran
was the one that I played a lot. And
GT5
uh,
was I mean, GT4 was the last one that came out for PS2 before they moved on to PS3.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I want to talk about all that in the next episode
Yeah, we
because
can.
I have a lot because like when I graduated high school I had before I had this computer I had this piece of shit Dell Inspiron laptop that could
Gotcha.
run a lot of games,
Yeah.
not very well but it could run them.
Yeah, so we're running out of time a bit. I was supposed to be an hour and we're going to an hour and a half now. So
That's fine. That's actually
Spectre
better actually.
four PS2 games. All right, SOCOM was one of them. What are the other
Okay.
four?
All right. The next one is Medal of Honor.
Yes,
Which one
I
though?
agree.
Which one?
Okay. If we're being specific, it has to be either Frontline or European Assault.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
no,
know what? I never played Allied Assault, which is the PC version of Frontline. I've always played Frontline because I had it on the PS2. And I never played European Assault. That one I never touched. But I remember getting Rising Sun and being fucking
That was
hyped.
my favorite. The
I remember
Marines. Marines.
I remember being fucking hyped for being this game, and I'm like, yo, the problem with Rising Sun is that after the Pearl Harbor mission in the beginning of the game, it's like the rest of the game is super fucking dull. Like it doesn't have the magic that Frontline has. Go back and play that. No. You're remembering it from nostalgia. Go back and go load up an emulator and
No,
play
I know.
and
I look. I agree with you.
and play
The
Rising
only
Sun. And that game, like I said, after the Pearl Harbor level, you're like, wow. And then the rest of the level design is just jungles. Whereas like which makes sense. You're fighting in the Pacific, right? It makes sense. But the problem is that
Too much jungle.
it's too much jungle. It's too
not
much.
enough action.
It's too much jungle. And not only that, the problem with that game is that it does that stupid bullshit where the enemies are hiding in the fucking brush, where you can't see them. You're like, you don't know where they're at, but
You literally can't see them.
you can't
not
see
like
'em.
fucking World at War, Call of Duty.
Yeah,
Call of Duty did that shit right.
Yeah, you can see them. They're hiding in the bushes, but you can still see, like, you can still see their helmets or something in their uniform
Right.
is giving it away. But in this game, they'll be hiding in the trees and you can't see them. And it does that video game bullshit where it's like, I don't know where the enemy is. And even though the enemy is hiding behind vegetation to the point where the AI itself can't see through its eyes, but since it's programmed to be an asshole, it can shoot you and it hits you 100% of the time, every time. I don't know where this guy is, and I know for a fact he can't see me because he has fucking grass all over his face to the point that he's probably seeing me like this, right?
Yeah.
But he can shoot me 100% of the time, every time bullets hit me, I die one shot, and I'm like, as a fucking kid, like, why can't I beat this game and getting fucking pissed off about it?
I have that problem now. Like, here's my shameless plug. If you check out my channel,
Shameless.
on my front page, I have a series called Army of 3 or Army of 2. In the BMG section, that's the problem that me and my friend have, is they can see through these fucking trees. We can't see them. They can hit us. When we shoot at them, they don't get hit. It's a fucking piece of shit.
Yeah,
this game came out in 2013.
That game was garbage, though. I'm gonna play with you at some point.
You have to play with me. If you want to get into tactical shooters, I recommend you get into.
But here's the thing:
first.
I never been, when it comes to tactical shooters, I never been into like for example, I never got into the original Ghost Recon games because I was never into that, command a squad in an open fucking
you won't
field.
You won't have to command.
No, but either way, it's the fact that I'm a soldier and I'm in the middle of an open field, and I'm like, and I had to progress that way.
Don't worry, I'll train you up.
When it comes to like military sims,
it's fun. Trust me.
You gotta go prone. You gotta go prone.
I've always been, when I play military sims or any like game that like wants to simulate like real life like gunfire or whatever, the games that I like the most are games like Rainbow Six, where I don't like being I don't like being in a big open field.
Like CQB. This is why I recommended
Ready or Not. Yeah,
because you like that. You like SWAT. You like fucking CQB shit.
Yeah, because I like
it's good shit.
I like going inside a building more. Why? Because it's more tense than being in a field. Because if I'm in a field, I get sniped from across the field, I die, and I'm like, I didn't even see where the guy was. Rest in peace. But if I played something like Rainbow Six, SWAT, or Ready or Not, you're inside a warehouse, you're inside an office building,
something like that. Yeah.
So pretty much it's always tense because it's like, all right, cool, we cleared these 3 rooms. There's one room down the hallway. We gotta breach and clear this shit. And then all of a sudden, like, you don't know what's behind that door. There can be one guy, there can be no guys, there can be 5 guys. You don't fucking know, and you don't know where they're at. So you gotta basically open the door and hope for the best. And you're like, I hope we survive this encounter, And that's more to me. That's more exciting. That's more exciting than being out in an open field and just walking around, or basically like in the bushes being prone, and next thing you know, I get shot from off screen, and I'm like, what the fuck was that? Who shot me? And it's like,
here's the thing that we have for we'll get you set up with armor once you have the requisite SSD. Which, if anyone out there wants to play with us, just be advised, you need basically the full game of Arma 3 with the regular Bohemia release DLC. and 1C DLC, which is called Western Sahara, plus our mod list. And it's gonna be daunting, but here's the number. The final number, it's about 200-ish gigs worth of space that you need on an SSD
I
specifically.
think you lost everybody, dude. I think you can stop explaining it
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think
Don't forget the basic training that you have to go through in
that's
real
true.
life.
You don't even
That's
have to
true.
do that.
That's
You
true.
just
I
need
actually, before I played a game, I had to drive down to my local army recruitment, and I had to ask him, dude, tell me everything you know about the military, and I need to know in 10 minutes.
You don't even need to know that. Anything that you need to know for other like tactical shooters, like Ready or Not. Basically, it's easier for me to train you on that shit when it comes to like fucking uh, clearing a room specifically in a specific way. Armo is better for that. But other than that, Ready or Not, we have to get SWAT 4 working
Yeah,
because SWAT 4.
I gotta get those ports open. But I'm sorry, but we keep interrupting this man. But anyways, so SOCOM, Medal of Honor, 3 more.
All right. My next one, it's gonna be Siphon Filter. I
Siphon
grew up on
Filter.
Yes, I grew up on the Omega strain. That was like I played that constantly when I had it more than all my other games. Uh, I always tried to unlock all the weapons and shit and to get the highest time to beat the levels. And well, I never had online, so I couldn't play with other people, which is what the game was intended to be. So I missed out on quite a bit until I recently got an emulator and I played with a bunch of buddies
All right.
and beat.
So
So
that's two. I mean that's three. So what are your last two?
okay, my next one is going to be Black.
Yes.
I'm
That
streaming that
game is
next week.
awesome.
Yeah, I'm
That
streaming that
game
next
is
week.
that game is so awesome. It's just blowing shit up. You know,
Michael Bay movie, The
Michael Bay,
Game.
the game. Yeah. All right. So we got
yes.
Black. Well, I don't want to spoil it too much because I am gonna live stream it. It's just a very
Right.
bombastic, everything blows up, fucking type shooter. The story is very minimal. The story is
Yeah,
just
it doesn't matter.
yeah,
It's like Doom. Doom's the same
yeah.
way.
It's one of those games you don't play for the story, you play for the experience. But
Just shoot the
last game.
fuckers.
What's the last game?
Okay, it's gonna be Ace Combat 4.
That's a good one. Shattered Skies. Fuck yeah, that's a good one.
Yes.
Fucking
That,
love Ace Combat, dude.
Alrighty, so my five. My five. Okay, I gotta go with the goat. I gotta go with GTA Vice City.
Fuck yeah, bud.
Vice
I
City.
forgot about GTA. God damn.
Yeah, that's what I was. That's the one thing I'm surprised you guys didn't name a GTA game. But
It would have been San Andreas for me.
I like San Andreas. But the thing is that the reason why I like Vice City is two reasons. Well, three reasons. Ray Liotta is voicing Tommy Vercetti, which is badass already.
The music was awesome.
Number two is set in the 80s, which is a great fucking
Yeah.
time period. And number three, I'm originally from Miami and it's set in my hometown. So
Right.
there you go. That's why it's my favorite one. It's biased. It's a bias. If I was from New York, then I'll probably be like, oh yeah, Resident Evil. No, I wouldn't have. I said Resident Evil. I wouldn't have said GTA 3 if I lived in New York. I would have said GTA. I would have said GTA 4. I like GTA. I like GTA 3 because I played it a lot as a kid.
It was.
But the thing is that it's so bare bones compared to the other ones. My only biggest complaint about Vice City is the fact that the map is like 80% water and you can't swim.
It's like Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah, it's just yeah. Okay,
Yes,
anyway.
sir.
I have a copy. I have a copy of GTA 3 right next to me.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
For
Yeah,
PS2?
yes, I could never play it because I was never allowed to.
Here's the one thing
Yeah.
about GTA. I remember when GTA 3, I played GTA 1 and 2 on the PlayStation. Those games were rentals, right? But the thing is that those games were like so pixelated and stuff that like parents didn't care.
They were top down.
Yeah. So you couldn't barely see a lot of the action. So I remember my mom walking in and watching me like kill pedestrians and stuff in the original GTA 1 and 2. And she didn't care. She was like, oh, whatever. I
Yeah,
remember
because it was like so old. And
it was so old and pixelated. So like it's like you had to use you had to leave the action to the imagination. I remember when GTA 3 came out. My mom bought it.
Yeah.
My mom bought me GTA 3, not knowing what it was. She bought it for me, right? And she bought it for me not without me even knowing what it was, right? So I play GTA 1 and 2 and she comes home and she sees, she says I see that it has GTA 3 on it. I never beat GTA 1 and 2. GTA 1 and 2 were one of those games I loaded and I would just fuck around and that's it.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
All the GTAs up until San Andreas was the same for me.
So pretty much I got GTA 3, right? That minute I loaded GTA 3, like my mom wasn't in the room. The one that basically started freaking out was my grandfather. Um, so I started playing the game, and then out of nowhere, my grandfather walks in the room and he's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" Like he's talking to me in Spanish. He's asking me, "What am I doing?" Playing a video game, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm playing this game my mom bought me." So
You kill a hooker
so
and
I'm
take the money
I, I'm
back.
playing the game, and then he's basically seeing me shoot, like he's seen me run over people like on the sidewalk, and he's like, he basically like his face, like his expression went from smiling to like to what my face is now to like, right, because like he couldn't believe what he was watching. So I'm running over people, I'm shooting people, right, and
Doesn't
then
understand.
the I think the thing that broke him was that a police officer showed up to stop me from what I was
You
doing,
just blast it.
and I turned around and I threw a Molotov at him. So the guy was burning alive. The minute I did that, no shit, my grandfather literally turned off the TV. He didn't know how to turn off the game console. So he turned off the TV with the remote. He turned off the TV and he's like, "I don't want you playing that filth anymore." Like he was really fucking angry. And then basically he grounded me. He told me to go to my room. He grounded me because the PlayStation was in the living room. And then the one thing I do remember was my mom got in trouble too. So he grounded his grandson and then he went over there to ground his daughter too. Because I remember being in my room and I just remember my grandfather giving my mom an earful about, the fuck, you're not paying attention to what your kids are doing. But like, of course, in Spanish. So he's fucking
Yeah.
like bitching the shit out of my mom. And then my mom didn't let me play GTA for like a month. And then after a while, she was like, "Oh, whatever."
He's
And
like, it's a fucking video game.
It's like whatever. Just do it again.
yeah, well, she gave me like I remember
Ah, ah,
I remember thinking, I mean, she never bitched me out. Like, she never bitched me out about it because obviously it was her fault. She bought me a game not knowing what the game was. And me being a kid, that's like if you gave the kid a fucking blank VCR tape that had a porno in it, and then you
Yeah,
get mad,
right?
and then you get mad at the kid for playing the fucking, for playing the VHS tape and seeing seeing the porno on screen. You're gonna go and be like, "Why the fuck are you watching this?" Like, no, you as a parent, you're gonna be like, "Oh shit, I fucked up."
Right.
I gave my child some material that he was not supposed to be experiencing because he's not old enough to understand what's going on and to comprehend it. So,
Right.
but
So
no,
what were
but
your other games?
so yeah, Vice City. I really enjoyed Time Splitters.
I never
oh,
played that, but it
Time
looked
Splitters
cool.
was so good. I never played Future Perfect. I never played the third game. I played the first game religiously. The first game had no story. The first
What
game
was
was
the
what was
what
that?
was the what was the game that it said "Run Like Hell" on the back?
Oh,
It was
it was called Run Like Hell. I had that game for the
what
PS2, and
was
like,
it? Okay,
all right,
yeah,
so this game was supposed to be like a mix of Resident Evil with like Mass Effect. Like it was supposed
right.
to be like this very ambitious project. I forgot what Hollywood actors in it, but they got Hollywood voice talent. Like
It was like a rabbit and like a fucking like squirrel or something that would
no, no,
change
no.
like.
Oh no, oh you're talking about no, there's actually a PS2 game called Run Like Hell, which is supposed to be a horror
Oh,
game.
okay.
No, you're
Yeah,
talking about I forgot what it was called, but yeah, you're
I
chained
did.
up. You're chained up together. I forgot what it was called. I rented it for Xbox. I forgot what it was called,
it
but
was like raunchy
Hey,
as all
hey,
fuck.
what wasn't the Run for like Hell game the game that was basically kind of like Dead Space before Dead Space?
it was supposed to be like Resident Evil, Dead Space, and like Mass Effect because like there was a dialogue tree and then like characters can like and hate you.
Right.
Well, there is a dialogue tree, but they took away the like, oh, characters like me or dislike me because, well, first of all, the game was over ambitious. The game came out for PS2, and they were basically thinking about things they could do on the 360, but on the PS2, right? So the game was held back by hardware limitations, and not only that, I think I forgot who published it. It was either Atari or Acclaimed. It was one of those studios that basically like it was one of those publishing houses that was about to go out of business the next day. So they basically told their developers, "Yo, we got to get this game out like 2 weeks ago." And then basically like they just rushed the fuck out of it. And the game came out and the game is buggy, the game is unfinished, the story just ends. It's one of those games where like instead of having an ending, like it just says to be continued and you're like what
And,
happens? Yeah.
yeah,
And
you
you
like
win that.
it's like you kill a boss and it's like to be continued.
Yeah, to be continued. It's like, yo, like, what are we gonna do? And then the guy cocks his shotgun and it's like, we're gonna fucking burn the hive. And then the game ends. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, I didn't even get to burn the hive. like and kill all the aliens or anything. Like I didn't get to do that. The game just said, "Fuck you, we're not making another one."
I in the next episode, tell your next couple games because
All
I
right,
actually have two more actually.
all right.
Um,
Well, but yeah,
I
so
just
Vice City Time Splitters, I really did enjoy. What is it? I'm trying to name games that you guys haven't named, so like that we can have a more diverse list. What's a game I enjoyed? I really did like Red Dead Revolver. I played a lot of Red Dead Revolver as a kid.
Yes.
I played Red
Yes.
Dead Redemption.
No,
That was my
Revolver.
first.
Revolver's
Yeah,
it's a completely different game.
I
It's
know.
really
I
different.
saw a YouTube playthrough of it, and I
It's
was like,
really really
oh,
different. Like it's more.
yeah,
Well, the thing is that that game was supposed
just
to.
duels and shit.
Well, the thing is that that game was supposed to be. Well, number one,
Arcade. It was
number
supposed to be an arcade
number
shooter.
one is
Right.
not. Number one is not. Well, it's still, in my opinion, it still is an arcade shooter. Um, Number one, what do you call this thing? Is not open world. You go through a series of levels, and then when you get to the second or third level, when you complete those level, you get introduced to a hub world, which is a little town that you go into every between missions, and that's where you can go to the general store, upgrade your buy better weapons, buy health. You can go talk to the NPCs that are around that town. Sometimes they tell you interesting shit. Sometimes they just don't. Um, But and then you can go to the sheriff's office, and that's how you go to the different levels. It's going to the sheriff's office and getting a bounty, and then going at essentially what you're doing in Red Dead Redemption. I mean Red Dead Revolver. You're essentially just going to the sheriff's office. You're grabbing bounties of people that they want alive or dead. Of course, it's a game, so you're always going to kill them because it's a boss fight. And essentially, you start the level, you go to the entire level, and at the very end, the person you're supposed to kill, like with the bounty, it's a boss fight, and then you kill them, and then you go to the next level. That's pretty much what Revolver is, the whole entire
Yeah.
game. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and
just,
like even until you get to the very end, it's still basically the same thing.
the cool thing about Red Dead Revolver is that you play as 5 different characters. You play as Red Harlow, which is the main character. You play as Jack Swift, which is
Andy
the
Stokes,
best character. Andy Stokes. You play as Buffalo Soldier. What was the name of the Native American dude?
Shadow Wind. Oh, not Shadow Wind. What was it? Fucking
Yeah,
something Shadow.
yeah. And then each character has like, each character
Shadow
has
Wolf. It was Shadow Wolf.
Yeah, and each character has like, they have their own gameplay styles. Like my favorite character was Jack Swift because he had the dual revolvers, and
Yes, and his Deadeye.
his Deadeye ability was fucking insane because his
Minigun.
Deadeye ability will literally like you'll tag the entire target, and since he has dual revolvers, you'll see like so many circles on your fucking target, and when you let go of the button, literally he will go and basically just like fucking machine gun the guy with 2 revolvers. But yeah, his Deadeye ability was the shit in that game because each character had their own like spin. Like, of course, your main character Red had like the traditional like slow down time, tag your targets like in Red Dead Redemption. But
Yeah.
each character had a spin. Everybody used Deadeye, but each character
Oh yeah,
had
you also played as Diego.
in that one mission. Yeah, you play as Diego in one mission, which
The
was
hardest mission in the whole fucking game.
yeah. Diego is one of the bad guys. So there was you play as 6 characters. Yeah. In one mission, you play as one of the bad guys, which is a flashback, so they can explain the story. But yeah, so Red Dead Revolver was my third one. What was this game? I really liked God damn it, what was it called? Dynasty Warriors.
Never played it, but it looked cool.
I really was into Dynasty Warriors. The first Dynasty War, I might play Dynasty Warriors 2. The reason why I'm not playing Dynasty Warriors 1 is because Dynasty Warriors 1 was literally like a fighting game. One character on the left, one character on the right, beat each other up until the health bar depletes on one of you. It was just a standard fucking fighting game. Nobody even fucking remembers it. It wasn't that good of a game. It was, even for when it came out, it was a shit fighting game. It wasn't until Dynasty Warriors 2 where they decided to, what the game genre is now called as a Muso genre, where basically, you play as one character, and then basically you have like hundreds and hundreds of characters basically coming at you, and you swing your sword and you kill like 30 guys in one sword swing. Of course, a lot of people think those games are repetitive, like action games. You're literally just button mashing and just stabbing things. But every now and then, Every now and then there'll be a fucking like boss character that's on the fucking that's on the battlefield, like a general or something, and then this guy doesn't go down like all the other cannon fodder soldiers are. When you see this guy, he has a health bar, and now all of a sudden the game becomes a fucking boss battle. Of course, I can run away from the boss battle at any time because it's an open. They give you a big ass fucking map to run around in, and you got to capture objectives. It's kind of like Battlefield, but if everybody
Yeah.
was a fucking Chinese guy with with a spear and shit. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, but it's a third person game. It's kind of like Battlefield in that instance, but you're playing by yourself, you know. And the way you win is that there's certain win conditions. Like sometimes you just either have to capture all the outposts to win, or sometimes you just have to go to the main base, and then the head honcho for that level is sitting in that base. And as long all you got to do is just go up to. You can ignore every soldier in the battlefield if you want to. If you go kill that guy, which is not going to be easy because he's the main boss at that level. So, you're going to have to basically attack, dodge, block, all that good shit with a sword. But the minute you kill this guy, like, you win. The game will be like, victory, you won, the battle's over. But yeah, it was a fun game. I used to play Dynasty Warriors all the time on my PlayStation 2. And then,
We need.
what do we need?
No, keep going.
Because the Muso genre is still going around. The thing is that now they have like things like Pirate Warriors, they got Gundam, Gundam Warriors, Band of the Hawk. It's the same gameplay. They just use licensed properties. The one that I want to play is Band of the Hawk. Why? Because it's based off the Berserk anime / manga. You get to play as Guts and walk around and just stab people. Yeah.
Oh man, I liked Berserk. I never actually read it. I've seen a lot of like the stuff recently because the dude died recently, so I was
Yeah,
just getting
so
into it.
yeah, rest in peace. I forget what his name is, but yeah. The last thing was so the last game that I used to play in a lot. I'm just gonna say it. Burnout.
Yeah, fuck it. Yeah,
Burnout.
that's a
Fuck
good
it.
game.
Burnout. Burnout. Burnout 1 was okay. You go play it nowadays is not that good of a racer. It was fine from when it was. Burnout 2 was good, but Burnout didn't start getting great until Burnout 3 and Revenge, and then Paradise is all right. It's open
Yeah.
world, it's fun, but my favorite Burnout games are 3 and Revenge. I had 3 for the PS2 and I had Revenge for the Xbox 360. But yeah, so those are my 5 PS2 games. Do we want to do the other before we leave? We got to do this quick though, because we're already heading to the 2 hour mark.
Okay.
Before we leave, do we want to discuss the other consoles in that generation, like real quick?
Yeah,
no-
like the Xbox and stuff.
GameCube, and Xbox. All right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do this quick. I'm gonna name 5 Xbox games that I like, and then you guys
Okay.
do the same thing.
Okay.
All right, obviously, this is probably gonna be in everybody's list. So in reality, it's gonna be a top 4 list.
Right.
Halo.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's number one.
It's
in
like I
every
said,
top 10, yeah.
it's a top 4. There's gonna be a top 4 list because everybody's gonna put Halo.
I mean, I'm not gonna because you already put it on
All right,
yours.
so Halo.
we'll
All
just-
right, gotcha. So Halo. I like Fable.
Yeah,
Splinter
Fable was
Cell.
cool.
Splinter Cell. If I had to name one of them, Chaos Theory.
Yeah.
Rainbow Six 3.
Yep.
Black Arrow, and my last one will be my last Xbox game. Shit. Trying to think of a game that I played a lot on Xbox. Oh, Morrowind.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Those are my top 5. Drebin, your top 5.
All right, here we go. Narc. It's basically your fucking drugs detective, drugs enforcement detective. It's a really good game.
You know, it's funny.
That's number 1.
I know a lot of kids growing up that had that game, Narc. Why? It's not even a game that they asked for. Do you know why a lot of kids had that game?
Why?
It was $20 brand spanking new when it came out.
That's true. It was
So-
a really good game, though.
It was a
It
good
was
game.
cheap.
It was cheap. So a lot of parents, they walk into GameStop or something and they see like the GameStop employees like, "Yo man, we got this brand new game Narc. It came out today. It's only $20." And of course you see GTA is $50. And you as a parent, you'll be like, "I'm not gonna spend an extra $30. My kid's just gonna have to deal with this." And then he just basically just bought, they'll buy you the $20 game. But it was actually a pretty good game for being $20. It was like GTA. The difference is that there was no driving. You had to walk and run everywhere, which is fine because the maps weren't that big anyways. And I just remembered that there wasn't a lot of shooting in the game. You can shoot in the
No,
game.
there was, but it was.
It was mostly
I,
it was mostly hand. I remember mostly running out of bullets and me running up to people and having to fucking fuck them up with my fist or something. It was mostly a brawler. It has shooting in it, but I can
you
tell
can
that
take drugs. You could be a
you can
drugs
you can be a bad
narcotics
cop.
off.
You can be a
Yeah,
bad cop, good cop, and you can actually instead of actually, you will confiscate drugs from people.
yeah. You
And it's
just randomly frisk people on the street.
yeah, and it's and then you had the choice. Do I want to be a good boy cop and then give the drugs to the evidence locker so they can hold it in there like it's supposed to? Or do I just want to basically rob this dude by harassing him, taking away his drugs and being like, I'm a cop, I can do whatever the fuck I want, and then fucking snorting the fuck out of that shit. Yeah,
And right in front of them.
exactly.
Right.
Right in front of him. I just
Right.
stole your drugs because I'm a cop. I can do that, and I'm gonna take the drugs in front of you. And if you punch me once, if you hit me or anything, then
You're
it's
fucked.
yeah, you get a felony. It's an assault on a police. Like I say, that's why cops are assholes because it's like you give them way too much power.
Right. But let me roll
All
through
right,
the
so
rest of
Narc,
mine.
yeah, you got four
All
more.
right. So, okay, so this is gonna be a double because it's a series. True crime, the true crime streets of LA and New York City. That'll be number two.
LA was good. City, I mean
It was it was a, it was
New
I
York
could
City was
not progress.
New
It
York
was
City. No, that game's broken, dude. That game was rushed. That game sucked.
probably
No, it was. It was. That game was rushed. That game sucks.
it was
Street
all right.
Streets
I
of
mean,
Streets of LA was good. I mean, it's not good anymore because it's dated as hell. But when it came out, that shit was live.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then okay, and then another series, Destroy All Humans 1 and 2.
All
Um
right. So I'm gonna name those as individual. So you still got two more.
okay, I'm gonna call a Full Spectrum Warrior.
Oh, that's a good fucking
Because
one.
the gore in that game, my friend was telling me about it because I didn't remember it, but I remember it now. You could blow holes into people with fucking shotguns and shit.
Yeah, man, the
Uh,
Xbox was really like the hardcore like adult gamers console when it came out because it's like they had games like Rainbow Six, Splinter Cell, Full Spectrum Warrior, you know,
and
I mean,
then
yeah, and then Halo, like they had like games that adults wanted to play, whereas PS2 had shit like Calamari Damacy, which I love, but it's like it's such a jarring like difference between like both art styles and gameplay. But what's your last one?
Ty the Tasmanian Tiger. Basically the first one, and that was it. Because that's the only one I ever played.
Yeah,
But that shit
they
was
remastered
fire.
those. They remastered the first two. I think they were working on the third one. But yeah, Chrome Studios is remastering the Thai games. Now
Yeah.
Spectre, you're five.
Oh, technically, my Xbox was actually a hand-me-down, and it only had Halo 1 and 2, so
Okay, so all right, so Spectre is only
just Halo.
just Halo, I guess. All right. GameCube. Did anybody have a GameCube growing up?
No.
No, I had friends that did
All
the
right,
or
so
they would bring it to school because it was a
it had a
like
handle and
old
it was
school.
portable. Yeah, and it had the
Yeah.
four-player thing. So okay, I didn't get a GameCube. So that I'm gonna, since I'm the last one that basically only had a GameCube or experienced a GameCube, I'm gonna basically just name mines real quick. So I didn't get a GameCube until like later onto its lifestyle cycle when like the Wii was the Wii I think was like a year and a half away, and I remember buying a GameCube because GameStop was selling them for $99. They were $100. I had $100 from a summer job, and I decided why not? You know, I like Nintendo, and I haven't got to experience their latest console because my mom bought me a PS2. My aunt, she gave me half the money for an Xbox, and I ended up paying for the other half of it. And then the GameCube, I ended up buying it because it was just $100. So,
Right.
so the games that I like for the GameCube, Luigi's Mansion is Resident Evil for babies, but it's such a good fucking game.
It
Uh,
was good.
It's such a good game. I gotta stream that for the channel sometime. Luigi's Mansion. Or
Is
do a
it is it co-op?
no.
Okay.
Luigi's Mansion 3 is, which is on the Switch, but Luigi's Mansion on the GameCube is just a single player game. It's literally Resident Evil, but you're playing as Luigi. Of course, it doesn't have the camera angles like Resident Evil does, but you do the same thing. You're walking around a mansion, you solve puzzles. There's ghosts, which are like the stand-in for the zombies you have to basically take care of, and then you gotta find keys, and then keys opens particular doors, and then you need to find the keys to open those doors. Like I said, it's Resident. They literally took Resident Evil and they made a game around it. Like I said, it's Resident Evil for babies, but It's such a good. It's not scary at all. It's just fucking fun. It's a really fun game. Um, okay, what is it? Super Mario Sunshine. Uh, Wind
Yes,
Wind
I
Waker.
remember that.
Wind Waker, Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. I never played Metroid Prime. I'm gonna play those soon for the channel. I'm gonna do a whole Metroid run because I'm very unfamiliar with Metroid, and that's basically Nintendo's Halo is Metroid. Um, but like I said, I can't name that one. I can't name things like Eternal Darkness because I never played that. Tim from Rocky's moderator wants me to play fucking Eternal Darkness. He keeps telling me it's one of his favorite games, but I'll play it at some point. What else is there? Mostly naming Nintendo shit because if you buy a Nintendo console, that's mostly what you play. All the third party shit you play it on every other fucking platform. Um, so I did Luigi's Mansion, Mario Sunshine, Wind Waker. The GameCube had these. Okay, so GameCube has this. I mean, not GameCube. Nintendo owns this franchise that's called Advance Wars.
Oh my god, I fucking love Advance Wars. I had that shit on Game Boy Advance. That
Yeah.
was my shit.
So Advance Wars is a strategy game. On the GameCube, they made
Baby's
these.
first RTS. That's what it
Yeah,
is.
on
It's
the
so
GameCube,
good.
it's not really an RTS. It's more like a tactics game because you're not.
Something, yeah.
Yeah, because it's like a board game. There's a board game, and
Yeah.
you move your troops to that spot, and if either you occupy an enemy spot or if an enemy occupies the spot where your troops are, then a little battle comes where you see like your troops like that, and there'll be a helicopter, there'll be infantry over here, and they're fighting and shit. But yeah,
That was my shit.
yeah, it's
Was
most
that on GameCube?
no. So what GameCube didn't have Advance Wars. They made a spin-off of Advance Wars that was called Battalion Wars. And what Battalion
Oh.
Wars was, the sequel was on the Wii, but Battalion Wars was cool as fucking shit. Your soldiers are very tiny people. It's a third-person shooter, so your soldiers are very, very tiny, right? But the thing is like the game is like Battlefield, due to the point that you're controlling this tiny little soldier and you're walking around the battlefield, and pretty much what it is that you can recruit, like if you see other allies soldiers with you, you can recruit them. You tell them to follow you, and then they'll basically, you'll be controlling your character, and you'll have your little soldier green, your little green man basically following you behind you. And if there's enemies, all your freaking allies will go ham and be like, there it is, enemy contact, and everybody will start shooting at the NPCs. And you can get on planes, you can get on tanks, there's helicopters, you know. But yeah, Battalion Wars was the shit, man. And then when the Wii version came out, the GameCube version didn't have online play. When the Wii version came out, which was a sequel, they added online multiplayer. So you were able to basically have, it was essentially Call of Duty Battlefield for Nintendo platforms.
Right.
It was so good. I don't know why they don't make a fucking Battalion. Dude, I don't know why we're not in Battalion Wars 6 at this point.
They should. They're actually making another Advance Wars.
Yeah, they're remaking the first two games for the Switch.
Oh, fucking! I need to get a Switch
Yeah.
for that. I fucking love those games.
Here's the one thing I recommend. If you're gonna use your Switch just for personal use, get yourself a Switch Lite, which is $200, and you don't need the dock. I never play my Switch. I have the original Switch, the one that came out for $300. The only time I ever dock my system is to charge it,
Right.
or whenever I decide that I want to do, like for example, when I was playing Dusk for that one live stream, I was playing it.
Dusk.
Yeah, I was live streaming Dust not too long ago, and I was playing the Switch version, and I had it docked, and I connected it to my Elgato, so
Right.
I was capturing it to my capture card. But other than that, dude, my Switch is not a TV console; it's a handheld. I leave it on my dock so I can charge, and when I want to play it, I undock it and just like,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a good idea because literally all I have is my fucking PCs. I don't have any sort of fucking TV anywhere in my room.
No, just buy
currently,
yourself a
so-
Switch Lite.
Yeah.
The only thing about the Switch Lite is that obviously it's smaller, because it's more
That's
portable.
fine. That's fine.
The Joy-Cons on the side, the controllers, they're not detachable like the original one, so you can't take
That's
them off.
100% fine.
But I'll show you now.
Yeah, show me.
I have it right here. So essentially, what I do, I don't like the Joy-Cons on the Switch, so I bought
Plus,
this.
you have
I bought this doohickey. So my Switch is in the other side of the room, but essentially, what I do is that you put a controller here, and then you put the
Ah,
tablet screen right here. So when you're playing it with an actual fucking controller instead of playing it with
right.
dude, the Joy-Cons suck. They're not
Of
that
course
good.
they do.
No, they
Then
feel,
they drift.
not
They
only do they
drift.
drip, dude, they're so uncomfortable in your hands. Like
I bet.
they literally made the controllers for the Japanese people because, no, I'm being honest. It's the same reason why. Do you know why one of the reasons why the original Xbox didn't do fucking well in Japan was
Because the fucking controller was huge.
the Duke, which was the original controller. So
Yeah.
when Nintendo, I mean, when the Japanese people saw the Duke, you have a controller that's like fucking this big.
I was like 6, and I was just like,
Yes, and so you're having a Japanese adult person that has like their hands are Japanese people are smaller than Americans, so they have smaller hands naturally. One of the reasons why, okay, the reason why Xbox controllers or American style controllers have offset joysticks is because we have big hands. One of my biggest complaints about the PlayStation is the fact that the joysticks are too close to each other. So your thumbs are always doing this shit. You
Yeah.
know, so
I didn't have that issue. I had small hands as a kid.
well, yeah, as a kid,
And I got
but
huge hands.
but when you're go back and like get a PlayStation 2 controller with your big ass
No, I
hands,
won't. No, no, no.
exactly. That's why I prefer. Yes, dude, look at all the controllers I have. There's my favorite.
Fuck yeah.
I never play with this one.
That's cool. That the Crash Bandicoot one.
So
is cool.
this is for my Switch. So when I bought the Crash Bandicoot, Insane Trilogy when it first came out, it
Oh, I
came
remember that.
for the same for $50. The same price that the game was. It came with a controller. They
That's
had two.
awesome.
They had two versions. They had the ones that just came with the game and the one that came with the game and the controller. So I bought the one with the controller because it was $50. It was the same price. So I'm like, I'll just get a controller out of it. The other controller I have is this one for the Switch. This is my Pro controller. Right now it's dead, but the reason why I see through is because it has RGB lighting, and everybody knows
cool.
that if you're a gamer, if you want to have good gamer skills, RGB lighting basically like
All the colors.
it makes you shoot better. It makes your reaction times faster. Is amazing. I don't know what it does. I don't know what red, green, and blue lights do, but they make you play so much better. It's a gamer fact. So for my Series S, this is what I use for my Series S.
Yeah. My roommate's letting me borrow his because mine
Now
for whatever reason
for my PC, I got so many fucking controllers.
I forgot the name of this company. It's called Power A.
All right.
I have a Power A.
Yeah, that's actually the people who no, actually it's not Power A. Power A are the people who made the Crash Bandicoot controller. The people who made the
This one has the wire locks in. Like that one right there, that you have is a default like Xbox one. I have that.
Can I tell you something?
Go ahead.
This is when the Xbox One came out, not the original Xbox, the one that came out in 2013.
So that's the one before they added the Bluetooth feature to it.
Yes. This is my when the Xbox One came out, I bought an Xbox One, right?
Right.
Because I was Team Xbox already. I was so hardcore into the Microsoft ecosystem that I didn't want to get a PS4. I ended up getting a PS4. I don't have a PS4 anymore.
This one's got the Bluetooth in it.
Yeah. So pretty much
this is it's got the texture on the back kind of.
So that controller that I have, that is my original Xbox One controller. I've been having it. No, it's actually pretty clean. But I've been having
mine is.
But yeah, I've been having that controller. And it's been basically like my go-to PC controller for years. And you know what? I've owned it since 2013. It's almost 10 years since I've owned this controller. No drift. The only thing that's been having a problem with this controller is that the X button is starting to get stuck. I don't know why. It does this every now and then, but it's been doing it more and more often, and it's been pissing me off.
These sticks are actually drifted a bit. This one, the roommate has had this for a long time, and fucking like it's still like full center. I'm like, when I get my money, I'm getting me one of these motherfuckers because this will I don't know if you remember, but it's got this fucking port.
Yeah. The micro USB port.
You drop it once with the wire in it, then you have to because how I used to finagle it to get it to connect is like plug it in, then wrap it around once.
Oh, I hate that shit.
it was so, that's why I was like, I just want to throw this one
Well,
out, but I can't.
my Xbox One controller, what it does sometimes that annoys me is that the port is very sensitive. So if I move if I move if the port
That's
moves
what I'm
like an
talking
inch,
about. Yeah,
it disconnects. So
yeah,
like
yeah.
so I have to basically plug it in at an angle. Like I don't wrap my cord around it. It's not that bad yet. It hasn't gotten there yet. But
Right.
the minute it gets there, I'm just gonna play with a different controller. At that point, I'm
Yeah,
like, that's it. The
get you a
controller's there.
fucking Power A, boy. That's
Did
what you
you
gotta get
did you
because
hear?
it locks in.
Did you hear the Xbox 360 controllers coming back?
Is it?
Yeah,
Because
there's
that's
a
fucking awesome.
I think it's Hyperkin.
Oh,
Hyperkin, they're remaking Xbox 360 controllers.
Oh
uh,
yeah,
one that I
everyone was about
forgot.
that.
Yeah.
One that
Oh, I
the
used to
game
have
that
that.
I have currently because someone made a mod of the PC version called Guitar Hero World Tour Definitive Edition,
Ooh.
which is the more legit version of Guitar Hero. Like there's Clone Hero for PC,
Yeah.
so but that doesn't have all the background character like story mode shit. But this World Tour Definitive Edition, I can use this with it. And it's actually got all the fucking
Hey
shit I
guys,
wanted.
All right, last
Oh
one.
man.
Okay, so my last game because we're gonna have to leave.
All right.
My last GameCube game, Resident Evil 4.
Yep. That's a good one.
Yeah, it started out as a GameCube game, and the funny thing about it is that it started out as a GameCube game. It was exclusive for 6 months. So when you bought the game, it used to say on the very top corner, it says only for GameCube. And it kept saying only for GameCube after the PlayStation 2 port was already released. So you will go to GameStop, pick up the game, and it will still tell you it's exclusive only for the GameCube. And then you look to you just look to your right a bit, and you'll see the PS2 port. All right, guys, that was the podcast. I hope you guys like the new cast. That's here. Um,
We got to do more episodes because I got a lot to talk about.
I
Trust
do have a
me.
lot of time, and I like talking to friends and having gaming discussions. So I hope
Yeah.
so Spectre, do you have a good time?
yeah, I did.
Okay, cool. Because you were like, I don't know if I want to do the podcast. I don't got a lot to say.
Shut the fuck up, Kev.
But anyways, bro, thank you so much for these gentlemen for joining us. Check out this dude over here to my it will be my left. Yeah, check him out to my left. Um, I'll have his YouTube channel on the link below. Give him a sub if you guys are interested in things like Arma, Ready or Not, Rainbow Six, SWAT 4.
I have Red Dead Redemption series going on
Yeah, he's
right
doing that
now.
now. So anything that for the most part, anything that's like a try hard military experience, he's your dude.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotta be try hard, man.
Yeah,
Gotta be sweaty.
that shit it's too sweaty for me. My room is hot enough as it is. The last thing I need is to
I,
sweat more
I
gallons.
I
But
have a window open and an air conditioner on.
uh
That's how sweaty it is.
yeah, I can't do that because if I open up my window, then basically I'll freeze to death because it snowed last night, so it's super cold
Ooh,
outside now.
all right.
Anyways,
Lucky.
yeah, and then Spectre, Spectre, do you want me to plug in your YouTube channel or you just don't care?
Okay, you might just do it.
All right, but
Just do it.
he uploads other people's works on his channel. He gets video game soundtracks and he basically uploads them. So if you're one of those people that are really into video game soundtracks and you need a place to listen to, Spectre's your man.
Yeah.
Yep, I got my own personal playlist too.
There you go.
So,
Until YouTube
I
knocks on his door and be like, you can't do that anymore.
hey, no plagiarizing.
FBI, open up.
You guys strike. Yeah. All right. Well, anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I know it's been like over 2 hours. It was first supposed to be an hour live
Told
stream.
you.
Then it was going to be an hour and a half. And now it's over 2 hours.
Told you.
It happens. But anyways, guys, you guys have a good one. I'll see your faces some other time.
See you, Space Cowboys.
See ya.
Bye.